Oh, I got it, Dan. I got it written out already. I believe we are live. How you doing today, chat? How's everyone doing? Sent the message.
How's it going, guys?
Okay, here we go. Battlescroll 2022. It finally happened. It finally came out, and we can talk about it finally. For better or for worse, you know, I was kind of. My first impression is that it was a lot. It was a lot more than I was expecting, but at the same time, now that I know how much I can expect from it, I wanted more. Like I wanted a lot more out of this thing, and I hope the next one is big. I hope the next season really shakes things up. Let's say that. That's my first impression. What did you guys think though? Because it's been a couple days we've sat on this.
The Battlescroll honestly gave me it gave me like a new, not least on the game, but like a new motivation for the game that I didn't know I needed, and that was pretty hype. Like the changes to the game, the clarifications that they did, they actually like listened to the community. It's pretty encouraging, just because lately, you know, it feels like GW just kind of does whatever. So I'm so excited, especially what we got.
I say the same. It didn't have everything I expected, but just the sheer number of clarifications and like questions they answered regarding the game, in addition to actually like hitting things that needed to be hit. Now whether they went the full extent is something we can talk about, but overall, at least I like that they pay attention, or they have been paying attention, and there weren't any like pointless Stormcast nerfs for no reason. In fact, there were buffs, so can't be mad about that. Could be more, but I can't be mad. It was a fine Battlescroll.
Yeah, those are very reasonable takes. Here's something we should do that we haven't really been doing, and I think we should keep doing it going forward. Introduce ourselves at the start. We kind of jump into the way.
Just to jump in here, Paul, maybe my audio and your audio is a little low.
Okay.
I haven't heard anyone else talking, but just to get that out of the way in the beginning of the stream.
Well, I can't turn mine up anymore, so I'm just going to get you up there a little bit. Okay. Super professional outfit here, folks. Okay, let's start with top left. And introduce yourself.
Oh, me? Okay. Yeah. Hey, it's Daniel here, and you know, I'm your Nightless store. Yeah, doing good today. It's been pretty sweet. I'm, like I said, super excited for the Battlescroll.
Right on. Top right, Jack. And he locked up, and he's muted.
He's muted. I think his mic isn't working.
Okay, he'll figure that out. Middle left, who are you, and why should people be excited to see you on the stream again?
The Reforged Night Podcast, or OG, James here. I was one of the original three. Never forget that.
We will never forget, James.
Yeah, no, I'm just a local scrub. I decided to kick around today, talk about the Battlescroll with you guys.
And middle right.
Hey guys, it's Morgonk. Just night podcaster, same as usual.
Rock on. I'm Paul. I guess I'm the host. I'm gonna call myself the host. We're all the host, but I'm the one pushing all the buttons, so I'm the hoster, hostess. Nope, that's not right. All right, we'll figure it out later. Put up a poll in the chat if you guys are watching live. I think this one's going to be hotly debated. What do you think of Liberators after the Battlescroll? Because we're all very obviously hype on Vanquishers now, but where does that leave Liberators? I'm curious to know what you guys think about them. So feel free to jump in that poll while we discuss things. And before we get into the stream, Dan, we've got some news from our sponsor. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, man. So yeah, as you guys have probably seen, Kaiju Gaming Lounge has done us the great honor of sponsoring our little podcast here, and they're a really awesome company up and coming in our, I guess, our little niche of the world here in our wargaming stuff. They are in Orlando, Florida. They don't yet have a storefront, but they are working towards it pretty quickly here. They are the sponsor of our painting contest, so if you've gotten a prize from us, hey, it's you know, it's from Kaiju, so you know, big thanks to them for that. It's super awesome that they're supporting us. They're a really great company. They carry everything wargaming and tabletop in general, and their new website just went live at the usual kaijugaminglounge.com, where you can use the code Stormkeep for 15% off for being one of our loyal viewers. So thank you for tuning in. They're a great company. I really like them, as I've said before. The owners have been they've been community developers. Like honestly, especially one of my good friends, Carl, is one of the owners, and he does everything he can to make wargaming bigger in our area, which is super awesome. And in general, he travels to many different events. Really great guy, and they carry a lot of different things. One of the things they do is like custom measuring tools. So I don't know how visible this is. There we go. This is the towel one that I got from them, but we are working on some other ones, but they will do some custom designs. So if you do want something done by them, they can do so. Different measurement tools, like they've got this kind of design, or a smaller key that does, different, like a 3-inch measurement, for example. And we're working with them to do our own measuring tool for deep strikes, specifically for like with our Lord Imperator. You got a 7-inch and a 9-inch. On the same stick, yeah. So we'll get more news about that very soon. You'll actually see like kind of the preliminary. If you go on their website, there's like a preliminary template, which I don't think is available to buy quite yet. But we will be taking kind of a pre-order on it, so you guys can figure it out. There will be different options on there for how you want the stick to come. So definitely pay attention to the options once we do announce it, and you do go get to order. As well as if you want any other kind of measuring tools, get in contact with them. There'll be ones on there to use. They even have measuring tools for stuff like D&D. Like they even have like D&D like wall of fire measuring tools and different like shapes and such that you can do, which is pretty cool for like your tabletop needs. So they're awesome. They got different things. Like I got this cool kaiju dice roll. I can't think.
Dice roller.
Yeah, dice roller.
Tray.
Just in general, tray. Cool. So yeah, they're a great company. Like I said, please do support them. It does support us too. Thank you.
Right on. I've been enjoying talking with the guys about that project. We're also going to have Stormkeep dice soon. Those are almost finished manufacturing. The proofs look really good from the manufacturers, so we are hoping to have those out. It's a limited first run because we just want to see how this is all going to go, how much demand is for that sort of thing. But those should be coming out soon-ish.
Yes.
I don't want to overpromise because we always do, but soon. The wheels are in motion.
Yeah, I'll mention, like Carl said in the chat, that is Carl Rohr, the one and only. And he is a dirty chaos player, but whatever, we still accept him.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he is currently. They just launched the site recently, so they are still uploading some AOS things. I know on there for right now. I just bought Chariot, a new Chariot, just because Chariot's good. We'll talk about that in a bit. So definitely check them out.
Rock on. Okay, let's get into the topic at hand, which is the Battlescroll. We've been joking about this actually not even existing. I think we were saying every 6 months we'll get a Battlescroll, but it finally came out and it's here and it's pretty good. So let's break down the major changes. I think we summarized it pretty well here. It's like a Cole Notes version. We'll get more in depth in a sec, but. Yeah, major stuff. Beasts of Chaos summoning very slightly nerfed. It's probably going to make a difference maybe once in 4 or 5 games. You'll see a difference to it. Cruel Boys got a really big buff. I think this is probably the biggest change in the whole Battlescroll. But Cruel Boys previously had to give up their their casting in order to use their poison thing, which is like the central mechanic of the army, to use this poison mechanic. And they had to give up their spell casting for the turn to do that. And now they don't. And Cruel Boys have a fantastic spell lore, so that has just been basically wasted the whole time because they can never get enough spell cast in order to use it. So we are going to see some big stuff out of Cruel Boys when you combine this with the Grin and Blades change in the last Battlescroll that made them not immune to shooting, but very resistant. Invisible, yeah, and you can't see.
No, it's magic too.
Yeah,
magic
all
too.
line of sight.
It's just visibility.
Yeah. Very, very strong effect. So those two buffs combined, I think, is going to really prop this book up finally. Then. Unexpectedly, honestly, I didn't expect to see them, but there were a lot of point changes. But way more than I thought was going to happen. I thought like maybe a couple of units here or there. They were just going to nerf the overpowered stuff, but no, they actually went through a bunch of armies and they nerfed stuff, or they buffed stuff people aren't using right now. In particular, Stormcast. Almost exactly what we've been asking for, almost right on the dot with the numbers too. So very excited for that. Pretty good. You can see the point changes down there below on the slide. But we'll get to the Stormcast changes in a bit. I think that's probably the second most exciting thing, is that like Stormcast got buffed. I don't know how, but we did. Finally did.
3 rounds of nerf, 1 buff.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got a lot of rule changes and clarifications, which is really good. Credit where credit's due. I've been very critical of Games Workshop for not putting out enough rule clarifications, and they put out a whole bunch. So I hope this is the start of more of these more frequently, because there's still a lot of outstanding issues. So, we don't have the specific changes for the points up here, but we made a short list of each faction, and we're going to talk about what we think the impact of these are going to be. So first up, we've got Cities of Sigmar. They got point reductions, but not on anything anybody's really using, which makes sense, right? That's probably why they did it. The Charybdis went down 20, War Hydra went down 20, Black Dragons went down 20, and I think more importantly, the Executioners went down 20 to 110 now.
Interesting.
Which is a very, very interesting unit. They've always been good, just kind of not good enough to see play, but maybe at the same cost as Vanquishers now, they might actually be a worthwhile unit for that faction. I'm not sure.
Are they like Vindictors, basically, where they do mortal wounds on 6s or something?
Pretty much, yeah. That's the short version of it. They have a bunch of synergies with Sorceress and things like that, but they've kind of just been too slow to really make an impact, but now that you can just get more of them, maybe that's enough to see play.
I mean, they only have like 1 attack per model, I think.
It's
yeah, no, 2 attacks.
Okay,
so it's Okay, so yeah, you can spam mortal wounds. If they're 110, you could probably just get like a huge block of 30 and just unload on people.
Yeah.
If they get close.
Worst case scenario,
It's
it's 330 points. It's a distraction card effects. Your opponent has to waste resources killing it. That's not terrible.
Yeah.
Maybe still not good enough.
For this season.
Yeah. I
It'll
don't
be
think
good after Bounty Hunters goes away. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're 1 inch reach, so they'll lose some efficiency there.
they're on
Well,
25
they're 25 millimeter bases.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Oh, they're 25.
They're
I thought they were on 32.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're on the small base.
Never mind.
Yeah, no, not at all.
That's pretty
They'll be
high.
fine.
The Black Dragon changes, I don't really see that making a big difference. Same with the Hydras and Charybdises. Their War Scrolls are just bad, so having more stuff in a list with them, still bad, still not worth using. The Black Dragons aren't terrible, and those models are, they're kind of like a Carnosaur, where you drop their points enough, and suddenly they're interesting. Like Carnosaurs at 210 in Seraphon, for example, that's an interesting choice. I don't think 260 is quite there for a Black
It
Dragon
could be
yet.
used as a. I think it could be used as like a cheap monster, like for monster factions alone. I could see that.
There's Phoenixes though. The Phoenixes always exist. It's
True.
the Black Dragon's got to be really cheap, and I don't know if 260 is there. But I'm not a Cities player, so I'm not sure.
Also, the models are just old. I don't really know many people who want to buy them or play them. So.
Yeah, then they don't want to refresh that range. It seems. We'll see what next year brings. Right, we're getting Dawnbringer Crusades next year. We'll see what happens.
Probably. Most likely, let's be real.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah,
They've been
for sure.
just teasing him the whole time, just randomly too.
It's going to be all human stuff. That like we're sure about that, right? Dawnbringer Crusades. It's not going to be any elf stuff or maybe a couple dwarves here with the Ironwood Arsenal, but like we're pretty sure it's just going to be humans. Which
yeah, it's majority
Yeah.
human.
They
I think
put
they
out.
said. I
Yeah.
think we might find like an elf character, or like you said, like there's an artillery piece. Like one of the crewmen might be a dwarf or something. But
yeah.
it's a majority human faction. Yes.
Yeah. Well, and with Old World coming out supposedly in the next 2 years, I think all of the old Empire and Dark Elf stuff will just get the Legends treatment that the High Elf stuff got.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
If
Well,
anything,
they've been introducing other cities, so they might keep them still, but they will not be good. Like I don't think.
well, they definitely cut the old High Elf stuff because they knew they were going to do Lumineth at some point, and they had to know
Right.
they were going to do what are they called, Ugarathi. So they probably would have cut that stuff by now, surely. Who knows?
Yeah.
Another faction that got buffed were Stormcast. Yay!
Yeah.
Vanquishers are very good. I mean, they were good, but now they're the best. They're the best battle line.
They're the best.
They're the best.
They have insurance
What a-
outside of Bounty Hunter season, is what I'm gonna say. Like
Yeah.
previously they were good because of Bounty Hunters. Now they are gonna be good past it. So.
They're also good because we're in a meta where they can be good, right? Like one of the big reasons we ranked them F tier initially is because there were no good targets for them. Like
No.
it
Right.
was like Maw Crushes and Frost Lords and Dragons. There was like you were getting 2 attacks per model and their damage was negligible, and they cost more than Liberators. So why would you ever bring them? But now there's actually stuff for them to hit, and they're cheaper. So, yep, they're the best. Plain and simple.
Yes, but we've been saying that since we did the tome review a year ago. Like Vanquishers need to be the lowest, then it should be Liberators, and then Vindictors.
Well,
Well-
in that meta, but
Yeah.
we'll get to it. We'll talk about Liberators. In the poll right now, people are saying Liberators are going to be A tier. So we'll see how that lines up with our predictions.
Yeah.
Uh,
They'll be coming in a slide.
Aventus Firestrike went down 40 points, and he's cheaper than a regular Toralod now, which is
That's
really
cute.
surprising. This continues their trend of making cheap Stormcast heroes cheaper than their non-unique counterparts, which is bizarre.
I mean, that's been happening in other
No, actually,
factions.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
You give up a lot.
Yeah.
Some factions don't give up that much for being unique. We do. Like we give up Scintillating Trail. We give up like Master of Magic because our command traits are, let's face it, they're ass. You know, our artifacts. If you want to take an Arcane Tome, a lot of times in our list we were putting Arcane Tome or Lord of Kanama Toleron. Aventus
Right.
can't take that, so he's literally just a kind of worse Toleron guy who can't take Master Magic and Scintillating Trail, but with an extra cast.
But are those even a big deal? Because you just stick that stuff on the Relictor instead.
Well, but not in
Trail
those
is.
lists.
I think as Magic Dawn becomes more prevalent in the game, as more armies come out, Scintillating
Yeah,
Trail is a big
yeah.
deal. I think.
Scintillating
Yeah.
Trail is good, yeah. I'm just happy
Also,
that
like remember, Aventus does not give +1 to hit to the Toleron just willy nilly. He only does it to Hammers of Sigmar.
Yes.
He is
Right.
sub-faction locked, and we are the only faction in the game that has unique hero models that only give out buffs to their unique sub-faction. You know, this isn't like all the others like Owlrack and all that crap.
technically not true. There is a Lumineth hero that only gives a command to Metrica units.
Are you talking about that Uriel guy, the
Yes.
Demon Slayer or whatever?
He's
Yeah, who cares
terrible,
about
but that's besides the point.
He's terrible. yeah, no. I mean, every good playable hero, like even what's his name, the double mount, Avalonor. Even he lost the
Avalonor.
Metrica keyword. He's no longer a Metrica locked. So
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's indicative of the fact that when you look at the Stormcast book, it's sort of like a 2.75 edition book. So there's a lot of carryover stuff from second edition that has since been dropped in third edition. So the
Yeah.
sub-faction locking and stuff like that.
I want to disagree with
No,
you,
and-
but Call for Aid is literally out of second edition, the way that ability is worded. So you're not wrong at all.
Yes.
It's like it was like a beta test for third edition when they were writing that book.
Right.
All right, next
Which
up.
makes me hope we'll get a
Haven.
new battle.
Oh, sorry, Heat Knights of Slaanesh.
We'll go
Sorry.
through all the Stormcast
No,
changes
let's talk
later.
about
We'll go through them all
Yeah,
later. We have a whole section of it.
Yeah, we have a whole section about it. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Hedonists of Slaanesh got buffed. Demonettes are cheaper. Fiend Bloods are cheaper. Fiends are cheaper. So those are all good things. Glutos is cheaper, but
Yeah.
nobody's going to ever notice that because
Yeah.
nobody
No,
uses him.
They're getting there. It's like, it's like
Yeah.
Slaanesh, I always said, should basically drop 20% across the board, except for maybe Sigvald. And they're slowly getting there. There's getting
they're
some
getting
punch
there.
drops, and Slaanesh will eventually reach a critical mass where they will just have enough units to start overwhelming opponents, I guess.
I'm not a fan of that balancing mechanic personally, but it makes sense for some armies. Some armies should be horde armies. They should have tons of bodies, tons of units. It's actually a benefit in this game to have tons of units because you have disposable stuff. You have stuff that can go on objectives while your other stuff is doing things. Strategically, it's really useful to have more units, and we definitely feel this when we're playing an elite army like Stormcast, where we have like 6 units on the table, and you're like, oh, 3 of my units just died. I only have 3 units left, and there's 6 objectives. What am I going to do here? So yeah, having lots of stuff is a good thing. But they just need a new book, man, right? And maybe next year.
They'll
maybe?
get it. Yeah, maybe next year, maybe the year after. I mean, if we assume 10 tomes a year, there's only like 8 more factions left.
Yeah.
So,
And Slaanesh does need a 3rd edition rework, I think.
yeah.
Skaven got buffed.
Yeah.
Okay. Doom Wheels.
yeah.
Doom Wheels are cheaper. Deathmaster is cheaper. 3 of the Vermin Lords are cheaper, one of them being the special character. Nobody really uses more than one of the Warp Seer or Corruptor, so 10-point reduction is almost meaningless. Doom
Yeah.
Wheels getting cheaper, is that something? Is that useful?
It's interesting. more than
It's interesting, but it's very random
Yeah.
still, the Doom Wheel.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's not as reliable. And I think Skaven's main problem is they're victims of bounty hunters, because that entire army is going to be bounty hunters. Bounty hunter
Yeah.
to death.
coolest thing you could do with the Doom Wheels was if you went the full
Distance, yeah, like 36 inches or something, just like zip around the field.
Oh,
doing
not
all
even
moves.
that. It was the crap. What's the Skaven when you have all master clan and you get to do moves all the same or charges all the same?
Oh yeah, I know
When
what you're
one
talking
thing
about.
piles in, you can do like the
Yeah,
more
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
piece with that, but it's not great.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
Yeah,
It's
it-
a nuisance. I've played against it, and it's a bit of a nuisance. I'll say that much.
Yeah, it's definitely a nuisance, but it's more. It's not comet
it's funny.
Fall, where
It's
that's
more
a-
funny than anything.
Yeah,
If
it's
there
not
are-
quite oppressive.
If there are Skaven players listening, let us know what you think of these changes, because I don't think they're a big deal, but I don't play Skaven, so I'm not sure.
It's not too crazy.
Yeah. It's nice, like
Right,
they're paying
right.
attention.
Yeah, the 10 points on the Corruptor or Warp Sphere is kind of neat.
Might
but
fit a
not
different in the
really-
spell now instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Gits.
All right, Mason says we need to revisit Skaven. We'll have Mason
Yeah.
chime in.
Gits, I think I'm just waiting
Mason
on a
brought
new
him to
book.
the
The
Masters.
drops are really nice. The drops are really nice on Gits.
Yeah, 20
Mm.
points on units that were only like 140. That's really significant. Across
Mhm.
the board, Gits are just going to have more stuff on the table, which is, like I was saying, some armies make sense to have hordes. Gits are one of those armies. They should have tons and tons of bodies. They should have a suffocating stench of goblins on the table.
Squigs.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know if you've seen playtesters grabbing up Gits on the secondary market. there's been some stonk signals there.
Hmm.
Strong signals. We'll see.
Interesting.
So yeah, so they're about to get something new. I bet they're like in Q1 2023, alongside maybe Seraphon, I think. Stuff.
Yeah, though
We'll
sure
see.
would be nice to get new Seraphon.
Mm-hmm.
Those new models.
FPC.
Yeah, Flesh Eater Courts got buffed. Sort of, not really, because nobody uses these two models, but the just the base Terrorgeist and the base Zombie Dragon got buffed. They're slightly cheaper. Not enough that if you were
Mhm.
running some kind of spam list with them that it would make a difference. Like, if you brought 3 Terrorgeists, you still wouldn't have enough for another squad of ghouls. Like, it's such a nothing change.
Yeah.
Yeah. That army's mechanics are just bad. They rely way too much on like commands that can easily be shut off.
Yeah. It's not as
So-
significant. But what's interesting is when you look at Flesh Eater Courts and then you look at Soulblight Gravelords, where they also did the exact same changes to the Terrorgeist and
Mhm.
Zombie Dragon, and it makes you wonder what they're paying attention to and why they're paying attention to it. Because a lot of times they're buffing stuff because they're thinking about it, right? They're playtesting it
Mhm.
themselves. They're looking at the new War Scrolls and being like, oh, this thing, at its current form isn't worth this many points, or let's see what happens if we adjust it this way. So to
Yeah.
me, this signals that Flesh Eater Courts are getting a book soon. They're playtesting it, they're finalizing it, and early next year, maybe summer next year, we're going to have their Battle
Yeah.
Tome.
Yeah, Soulblight was really late 2.0, so it's basically 3.0.
It's like I would say it's 2.85. Like
Yeah.
it was on the cusp. It was sort of 3.0 ready because but not really.
Does Soulblight need a 3rd edition Battle Tome, or do you think they're going to go into 4th edition with their current book?
It's totally possible. I think they totally
It's
could.
It's possible, but it's also possible they just get like campaign upgrades and then nothing
Yeah.
else.
Because the army functions as it is right
It's like y'all remember Ignet Deepkin? Like they like as a 2.0 book, they were probably like one of the most like consistent 2.0 books. And they just got like a small upgrade in White Dwarf for like 8 months before
They
the
never
new
had a
title came out.
2.0
And it-
book. What are you talking about?
They didn't?
No, they had a
They
1.0
did?
book.
The start of 2.0?
No.
Oh, I guess they never got a Soul Wars. Yeah, post
Yeah.
Soul Wars, they never got a book. That one book was carrying them through like 3 years. And at the tail end of the edition, like a year before their actual tome came out, they got that White Dwarf update that
Yeah.
basically let them have their old sub-faction rules, but these new War Scrolls that basically were going to be
Oh,
printed.
the Broken Realms.
And that like it catapulted them into like it was really good. Like with all the rerolls, they basically had 100% like hit and wound conversion
Yeah.
for like a solid like a year. It was pretty tough facing them.
I really like Broken Realms. I don't think they're going to do it again, though, because in 40k they're doing a narrative campaign,
Really?
and they specifically said they're not doing any rules in the books. So I don't think we're going to see another Broken Realms type situation.
I mean, I think that was more for 40k because they do a lot
Yeah.
of they do a lot of releases where they just put rules and things, not just in an expansion leading up to edition. They just do it
Mhm.
for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
It's like getting, kind of like
Honestly,
we
and
had
it
an
doesn't have to be
incarnate
like
every
new,
2
like
months,
yeah,
3 months.
it doesn't have to be new rules. It can just be like, oh,
Yeah.
here's like new War Scroll for a Blood Knights because the Vampire Court is now ascended now. Then Nagash is like taking a beating
Yeah.
from Teclis and is recovering.
Yeah,
Kind of like that.
I think a new book is fine. I would be okay with them getting a new book.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to see the changes. I definitely don't see a soul book.
We're going to see a
anytime soon.
Soulblight book with Nagash using light magic because he sucked it all out of Teclis, and that's why Teclis can't learn any
Oh,
spells.
That's why
Don't even go there. Don't even go. Don't do it. Don't do it.
All right.
Bone Reapers.
Cruel Boys.
Oh yeah,
No,
Cruel
Boys.
Boys.
Right?
Okay, Cruel Boys first.
Yeah.
It was.
Big drops. Killbow at 110 is
That's huge.
really big.
It's good.
Yeah.
I'm more excited for the Sludge Raker and the did the Troggett boss drop, the Troll Rider or whatever?
The Snatcher boss on Sludge Raker
Snatcher
Beast.
boss. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no,
the
the
Snatcher
Sludge
boss.
Raker is one. Then the other one is the one that rides the troll, the neck of the troll.
Is that-
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about? Troggott
No.
boss or something?
Yeah.
Mire
No.
Brute?
Didn't
No.
drop.
No, the Mire
Yeah, he
Brutes
didn't?
stayed the
Okay.
same.
Yeah. No. He
Yeah,
didn't.
he was
drop.
already good. He was 185. I think he's fine for 185. But like, no, Cruel Boys drops, coupled with that Shaman turning on thing, coupled with the Burning Blades change. I think they're good now. I think they still suffer a lot from bounty hunters, but you could legit make like a bunch of like. I think Gut Rippers went down finally, didn't they? They were like
Gut Rippers
180
went
and
down
now they're
20
like
points.
160. Yeah, that's
Which is
pretty
still
good.
expensive, to be
They-
fair.
Yeah, but
should
it's.
be
I mean,
140.
they have 20 wounds. That's 20 wounds for
On a
for 140.
5. It's like
Yeah.
bad.
It's fine.
Yeah.
They're there to die.
Yeah, I guess.
Just,
Yeah,
just
get
die
them
because nothing
close
can
to
shoot your
play
heroes.
fair.
If you put something what like 9 inches behind your line, like a Troggott boss to counterattack or something, nothing can shoot them. So like,
Mm-hmm.
cool. I'm okay with that.
I'm excited about Cruel Boys.
They're going to be a lot better.
I think there's a lot of doom and gloom because Cruel Boys have suffered really, really badly from the bounty hunter meta. Like +1 damage just negates that wound density that they have.
Right.
But ultimately, I think like, and obviously like they're still very vulnerable to things like Seraphon, but I think their spell lore is really, really good, and getting to use that in addition to magic, I think good Cruel Boys players will like really utilize that to great effect. Like -1 attack, turning off wards against Nurgle or like Night Haunt, and what's that other one? Making a monster normal move or whatever. Miasma, sneaky miasma.
Yeah, Sneaky Man.
Yeah, all good
Yeah.
spells. They're a little high value though, I will say. Like they don't have any buffs to casting. I think like that's probably the only thing that's holding them back.
Yeah. I mean, these are all good drops because these are all units that you want to bring, and it's just making
Yeah.
the whole army. And they weren't just too expensive. So this is
Yeah.
all really good.
Stark Pister says it gets you like 1 more units of Hogrots. Stark, so the way like the game is played, even an addition of a screen sometimes can make a huge difference because a screen essentially buys you time. Even if you can get 1 more unit in front of your opponent, make sure they have to go through that for a turn, giving you the chance to take priority over your opponent. It means you can. It changes the course of a game. Like at a micro level, when you get to that like events like that, the addition or subtraction of a screen can make a huge difference.
Or losing a screen, which we'll see shortly.
Yeah, losing a screen too. Yeah, like if my points went up and I suddenly lost like a Liberator or a Chariot unit, that would affect my list a lot.
I
So
think the Killbow more than the Gut Rippers change is going to make a big difference because the Killbow was like just on the cusp of seeing play. It's really easy to fit 1 into a battle regiment, which is great. You can go 2-drop with Cruel Boys by doing double battle regiment now. It's going to be
Cruel
interesting.
Boys can't do 2-drop. Cruel Boys have a lot of hero tied ups. Like all their Snatcher boss Sludge Rakers, they want 2 Sludge Rakers, so that automatically makes them a 2-drop.
Yeah, that's what
They
I'm saying.
probably
They
want
can go
2 Shamans.
They
yeah.
can go 2-drop with
Yeah,
double battle
Shamans.
regiment.
Oh,
Do you-
2 battle regiment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys think this these changes are being done with this season in mind, or is this in anticipation of the next season?
I think it's
I
anticipation.
think it's changing. Yeah, I think they
they
didn't
know.
touch bounty hunters because they're like, it's gonna go away in a month. Why are we doing this? Also,
I-
there's
I
no
don't-
more major tournaments left. Like the next one is LVO after this.
I'm pretty sure Bounty Hunters is going to go away. It's really looking like it, or they would have changed things a lot more.
I think that's the
Yeah.
strongest evidence that it's going away is that it would have changed by now. We've had a few months, 5 months now exactly. We've had 5 months of
Yeah.
bounty hunters, and it's clear that it's too strong and it's become oppressive. And I'm saddened by that because I like it being strong. I like how much it changed our faction in particular. Our internal balance is way better because of it. I hope they can keep adding stuff that's strong but doesn't become oppressively strong. Like the first season rules with the monster stuff, that was too weak. Right, this season, this is too strong. Somewhere in the middle, you got to find
I
something.
mean, I didn't run any monsters last season.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did just
And
fine.
nobody's running veterans because bounty hunters is too
Yeah.
good, right? Like it's just
Yeah.
if there's like a push and pull with some mechanic, people will just like do that's something outside of it. They do like this other position that doesn't matter, and they just ignore it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
Mason.
got,
Okay, glad to know you like the
Mason-
Skaven drops, man.
Yeah, Mason's
Mason's a
saying
really
great
good player
drops.
up on the West Coast. So.
Mm-hmm. Wheels are
Cons-
close to spam levels now. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see the
Yeah.
whole Master Clan wheel
Oh,
thing
sorry,
be
Michael
common.
Foose. Yeah, you're right. The Boys is actually pretty big, and I think there's one more. I think the Everwinter GT.
Everwinter
That's
GG,
got a lot
that's
of
right.
people.
Beginning of
That's the December.
probably.
Yeah, I think that's the really other
Yeah,
one big one
in
left because it has
Boston.
all like the pros. All the big pros are going
It's
to
a
that
lot
one, I
of
think in December.
people.
Yeah, I might actually go.
I
We'll
was
see.
wanting to go actually.
Yeah. Ossiarch Bone Reapers. What did they get? 20 points off the Harvester Crawler.
15 off the
So
crawler,
basically bringing
15.
them
25 off the guard,
15?
25 off the Morghast, 10 off the stalkers. Like
it.
it's
Yeah,
turning
yeah,
into
yeah.
a
So-
horde army, man. This is-
Yeah. No. So not necessarily because the Mortec Guard didn't drop actually, and the Cavalos Death Riders didn't drop. Stalkers dropping means they have a hard-hitting Paladin unit, so they're not just spamming Mortec Guard. You will start to see units of 6 or 12 Necropolis
Oh yeah,
Stalkers.
yeah.
in
We
this
talked
more
about
and
this in
more.
the last
Well-
realm report, right? There was that list with 9,
Yeah.
2 squads and 9 stalkers. That's
Right.
that's legit. That's a legitimate playstyle.
Yeah.
'cause you
But we
ignore
talked about
battles.
how that's like
Yeah.
a skew list. That's like it didn't face any shooting. It didn't face like you know what I mean? Like that's a pretty skew list as far as like what you're trying to do in Petrifex Elite. What I really like about these changes are you can run a balanced list and have 2 units of 6 stalkers or 1 unit of 6 stalkers pretty easily alongside another hammer. You're not overly reliant on like just like your summonable battle line units. And I think it's deserved because what OBR is trying to do, stalkers never really tied into that battle plan because they're the only units that don't benefit from any of the resurrection that OBR is trying to do.
Mhm. Do you
And with the crawler, I mean, yeah,
I was
sorry,
going to
go
ask about the crawler. Do you think there's ever going to be a point where that thing becomes like you bring 4 in a list, like it's a ballista?
No.
No, it's
No.
so it's really good. The problem is all out defense just killed it.
Mm.
Because even against 3-up saves, I was willing to like be like, okay, I'll take a crawler because you miss 1 or 2 3-ups and it's still doing like 10 damage to you, and it's pretty reliable. It's on 2s and 3s, 4 shots at the Leech Cavalos. But after all out defense came in and people could save stack to a 2-up, there's a lot of armies where it's just dead. It's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like it's like, what are you gonna do against like people who have like Vindictors or people like my Annihilator list like literally doesn't care. I just kill everything else, or I have Raptors in the sky. Seraphon probably doesn't care because of all their Thunder Lizard nonsense. So you're spending too many points. Maybe kill like some chaff every turn.
Mm-hmm. That's a shame because
So
that's always
I
been
don't-
my favorite
yeah.
model in the faction, the crawler. I just like the idea of a death
It's-
artillery faction.
Yeah, it's really stupid against some armies. Like against Gits who have Bravery 4, it'll just delete entire units of like Grots or like snipe out a key hero on like a 2d6 if you roll a 7, which I constantly do very well. They will just snipe out certain hero models. But other than
Speaking of
that,
bravery, have you guys seen the double Lumineth bravery check thing yet? Like Techless and then
Yeah.
yeah,
and then a Cathalar.
Cathar.
And you play against like Gargants, and you hit them with Bravery 6 because they have -1 from the Aether Quartz. And every time they move, they have to roll 2d6 under their Bravery, and then roll. And if they pass that, they have to
Nice.
roll another 2d6 under their Bravery. Oh my god, it's so abusive against some armies.
Pseudo Bellicor.
But I think Ossiarch mainly just need a new book, although these changes will help them. Like I was making a list with 2 units of 6 stalkers, and it felt pretty good with Archon and all their like magic pieces. It'll
Yeah.
still fall apart to like
Yeah.
dedicated shooting, I think. But 6 stalkers that can reroll save rolls with reducing 1 rend, and their reroll save rolls can't be stopped. It's just a thing they have on their war scroll. I think it's pretty decent.
hmm
And then Soulblight Gravelords, who just got a bunch of Terrorgeist and Royal Dragon decreases, I think.
Yeah, the White King
And
went
Neferata and
down.
Manfred.
White King is now one of the cheapest heroes in the game at 90, but I don't know if anybody uses a White King. That's probably why he's so cheap. Palanquin
Not
went
right
down.
now.
Neferata.
He makes the Graveguard battle line, so they just die.
Yeah, that's a downside. Making that unit battle line is a huge downside right now, so not a great time, unfortunately.
And Neferata points decrease is nice. I mean, if anything, it just like lets them, because I
Nice.
think they used to use cogs a lot, and cogs went up. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I guess they were like,
Yeah.
make Neferata down, cogs up. So
Mhm.
I don't know, balances it out.
Nice.
Not
Yep.
Nothing changed. The army still plays the same.
Yeah,
Yep.
pretty much. It's literally the same
Yeah.
guys. Talking the screen earlier, missing a screen. I think the Seraphon nerf is pretty interesting.
Yeah, let's start with that
Yes.
first, because this is exactly what we were talking about in our private
Mhm.
discussions. Maybe they were public too. I don't remember what we talk about on stream anymore these days. But we were saying like, is Seraphon a points issue or a power issue? And I was saying it's a power issue because look at how much Skink Priests and Star Priests and Slans do. Their support capabilities are through the roof. Like a Slan does about 400 points worth of support in any other army. Skink Priests are doing like 200 to 250 points worth of support. They're just too strong, right? And then because it's a power issue, they got to be way more expensive. Like, sorry, 90 point Skink Priests? What? That was insane. I can't believe
like,
that was insane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do you remember the days of 60-point Hat Queens in DOK?
Yeah.
How abusive that was? That's basically what that was.
Yeah.
It was
Seraphon Heroes had 2nd edition point costs. Now they have 3rd edition point costs, finally. So it's not going to make the biggest deal. Like, it's going to take out probably like 10 skinks, right? Like,
we were talking about it. Gavin Grigor's list that I think he stated on Twitter that his record with it is like 28-1 or 28-2, something like that. His list I think just loses a skink in the points from what I saw.
In a competitive
in
a competitive game, that's going to make a big difference. In most games, like if all that happens to your list is support units go up, your army's more or less going to be the same because their power is still the same. Skink Priests are still going to do exactly the same thing they were doing before. It's just you're limited tactically in a 5-round game on what you can do, right? So really good players are going to be able to take advantage of that. Really high-end tournament players, and I think this is going to cause Seraphon win rate to go down substantially because they're pretty much. The thing is they're played by really good players typically, right?
I don't know about.
I don't know about substantially, but a little.
If you,
yeah,
it'll go from like 65 to like 62, something like that.
Yes,
it takes the edge off. It definitely does. Because like, dude, when you're trying to find that angle with Annihilators, for example, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I think that's. I mean, for me, it's huge. Yeah. I don't know how huge it is for like someone who gets bullied by Seraphon. But yeah, same with I would say like the next faction on that list, Beasts of Chaos. I think what happened is Dragon Ogres went up 20 or 25, and then the spammable monster, the Cockatrice, I think, went 15. Up like 20, 15 points. I don't know if that's enough. And their summoning got nerfed in addition. So before it was 2 to 5, it was 1 primordial call point each turn. So 10 guaranteed over the course of a game. And then on a 6, you got, I think, 3. Made their summoning really, really insane. So it tones that down a little. I don't know if the Dragon Ogre spam really got nerfed. They will still just drop like an Ungor unit and like still spam Dragon Ogres, and now they have access to the new Tzeentch Enlighten, the Zangor Enlighten on discs. I don't know if this really hits Beasts of Chaos too much. I think they're just fine. Like, I don't think they care. Like, they were a faction that has access to really, really cheap screens, and screens are just like a dime a dozen for them. So it's not like Seraphon where like you have all these lizards and losing a skink unit really hurts. For them, it's like everything is disposable. So.
Yeah, and so I don't like this change. I don't think they went far enough because Dragon Ogre spam is really, really abusive. I would have liked to see these guys 165 instead of 145, just because they're propped up so much by all the recent rule changes. But credit where credit's due, they identified exactly what the problem is with this faction. It's the summoning, the Cockatrice, and the Dragon Ogres being too cheap. Those are the 3 problems, and they made changes to those 3 things. I don't think they went far enough. I'm willing to wait for more games and data to come in and see how big of a change that is, because it's not like Seraphon where losing a screen is going to make a big difference. Like Beasts of Chaos losing a screen is not a big difference. They're already cheap as chips, like you said, Mergonk. Everything's disposable. They got tons of stuff. Losing a squad of Ungor Raiders is not going to kill them.
So I agree with you, Paul. They're still too cheap. However, I like this because I started to see Dragon Ogres popping up as allies in other Chaos armies. Adding that as like a 100 or an 80 point tax on bringing them will make that less likely.
Yeah.
That's the problem with Chaos. The coalitioning there is like amazing compared to all the other factions. So anytime you release a Chaos unit, you have to constantly account for what it can do in these other Chaos books. It's the most insane thing I've seen. Death doesn't have this. Order has allies, but not coalition, which is a very interesting difference.
Order has Gotrek. We saw what happened with him.
Yeah, well, back when he was 400. Yeah, that was kind of silly. The next faction to be nerfed was Nurgle. Most notably, and the most abusive list, which was fly spam.
Yeah.
Puscoil Blight Lords moving in your face 16 inches. Mason actually played this against me when I was 3-4 months ago when I was in Seattle. It's not fun. It's not fun at all.
So what they just hit the Nurgle the fly list, right? And I think that's exactly what needs to be changed, right? Like Yeah, Orgots was he was included in that list. I think he kind of got hit. Same with Blobe, right? Like these two special characters, they're getting hit because they're getting played in that abusive list. So they're trying to curb that list as much as possible, but still keep Blight Lords playable. Just not, instead of bringing 10, you'll bring 8 now, something like that. Kind of like what they did with Drakes. They went way further with Storm Drakes than they did with this unit, probably because the context is different, right? Like Nurgle is an army that is, they have poor mobility. Their speed is good because they're using that once per at the start of the game move ability. But once they're in, they're in. There's nothing else they can do except sit there and rot you down and hope that you don't score enough objectives throughout the 5-round game. So reducing them even just by 2 models is a huge deal. That's effectively 32 wounds you're cutting out of that army. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and the really, I would say, degenerate list, which is Kronspine and Fly Spam, which,
Yes.
for those of you who don't know, Emma Mangold's great player, just smooth brain. In her own words, I'm not saying smooth brain, it was her words. Smooth brain her way to like a 5-0, just pushing models in front of your opponent with Kronspine and Flies just surrounding everyone.
Look,
It's
So, yeah.
actually it's 5 Gargants worth of effective wounds when you count all the warding and the fact of Kronspine. Oh my gosh.
And mortal wounds. Like, Gargants don't do nearly as many mortal wounds, because they will disease you to death, because everything is just so tightly packed.
And Stormcast are one of the highest damage factions, right? Like we deal some of the highest damage output in the game between shooting and melee, and it's still a pain for us, right? We're the faction that has disposable screens that we can put in every direction. We have the damage to wipe out whatever unit we want when we want, and it's still a pain for us to deal with it. And it seems like we're the counter to this, right? Like our damage profile and our screens are exactly what we need to beat this, and it's still a pain to deal with. Yeah, I can't even imagine how other factions are dealing with this. It's such a pain to deal with.
I think, like, if you're not running Helon wind charges, how does Lumineth ever deal with this? The answer is they don't.
How come nobody's running Helon yet? That's
I
man.
didn't see any.
It's
There were,
I think
there were 9.
one
I think there were
Helon
9 Lumineth. Yeah, there were 9 Lumineths at KC open.
and one
No wind chargers.
We got to put out the
charges
review.
either.
We got to finish recording it. We got to put it out. We are going to ruin the game for everyone by introducing Helon Lumineth to the game. It's going to make everyone hate playing Age of Sigmar, just like Lumineth in 2nd edition.
Yeah,
It's not that
if the average Gits club, I think, is watching this, I think they caught on. I think their Lumineth player caught on how good Helon was. I think he just didn't have Helon wind charges ready, so he just brought like Sentinels and Ballista and Avalanor. But I think they know. I think they know.
And that list needs refinement too. Figuring out the right number of wind charges, whether it's 10 or 15, that has to be determined. So there's tinkering that has to happen. So
Yeah, it's not as easy as like crossbows where you can take 10 or 15. Like you really need to find that critical mass. It's odd.
Next faction that got nerfed for me came out of left field because I knew one guy that was using this a while ago, but I haven't seen him in a while. Bone Splitters with Big Stab of Spam. That got nerfed. I hadn't been thinking about this for a while. So for me, this came out of left field. I was like, yeah, okay.
Oh, no.
Makes sense. I've seen this before.
no.
But yeah.
I like, it's one of those things I've seen in play a lot. Like, I've never faced it myself. Like the boar boys just, rushing towards you and everything. I guess it was pretty impressive because my at ATC, my Nighthaunt teammate had to go up against this list. Just like boars just running in your face with the Murgoth Prophet following close by, big stabbers. Yeah, it can be really good. It's like a classic pin and win style, just tons and tons of wounds.
Yeah. Hope you brought enough damage.
I can see why they did it.
If you didn't bring crossbow adjudicators, you're gonna have a rough time.
Yeah.
The next one, which is a huge nerf to many factions, the Kronspine went up 80 points, which is one of the biggest
Not
nerfs.
enough.
One of the biggest nerfs in the history of the game. Going up 80 points is huge. So who's affected by this? Tzeentch, Slanesh,
Urgle, Tzeentch,
Caradron Overlords,
the Daughters of Cain.
Daughters of Cain were starting to use it, and I really didn't like that list. Marathi Incarnate was stupid. Yeah, this is a big change, and it should have happened, and it did, and I'm happy about that because I hate the Kronspine. Even though we have a video talking about how to counter it, and like, it's super fun to kill it when it's like engaged, or make it go wild when it's engaged with an opponent's units, but it's just not fun to play against. It's too popular. It's like when Gotrek was in half the list. It's just not fun to play against.
Yeah, I agree. It's just the factions that don't care, the factions that really are still going to use it are probably Cruel Boys, Aidna Deepkin, because the Leviathan still is a 500 point model that is
Yeah.
20 points more expensive than Kronspine. So Kronspine will see play over Leviathan. Possibly Slanesh, I think. Slanesh still might use
Slanesh will
it,
still
especially
use
with
it.
their points drops. They could probably
yeah.
afford it.
Yeah, Slanesh break even. Maybe. Well, if they were bringing fiends.
Gets
Not with the points, but they'll still bring it.
Yeah,
they
they
still
will.
have points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll
Gits
cut
might
them.
still try it. Gargants might try it.
Basically,
but
the cost
they'll
of
have
Gargant.
to switch it off from the. Yeah, it's like they can't take the over 500 point Gargants. They have to start taking the less optimal Gargants in order to make it work. Yeah, so it's like it's still rules wise it's still a very oppressive model. It's just hopefully it won't see play in as many lists as it used to.
Did they go far enough?
Because I think
No.
the real nerf, I think the real nerf is the one nerf that's below it that's causing most of the armies that ran it to be dropping Kronspine, which is the spells.
Yeah, kind of.
How do you figure?
Yeah. So a lot of the lists like Tzeentch or like Cities of Sigmar or
Tzeentch,
like all these lists that were using the Kronspines +1 to cast and not just using it as a monster were using some form of Cogs, Love Counter, Spell Portal.
Okay.
I'm talking about the list that need it as an anvil, like Gits or like Crew Boys.
Probably
They probably won't care.
Spell Portal, I could see.
Yeah,
'Cause,
like
like
Tzeentch
Mason's thing,
gets hits
Tzeentch
big.
still
Like
loves
Tzeentch has no melee anvils, and they used to run the Kronspine as a premier melee anvil. But that going up 80, now they could probably find space for it. But the Cogs going up like 30, and this Spell Portal going up, I think 10, or like maybe I'm reversing the order, but I think something like that. That affects them because that list becomes like 120 points more expensive now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 40 points more expensive plus 120 total, which is that's a good hit.
Yeah, because they were basically going 3 heroes, minimum battle line of 3 units,
and then spells.
And then all these spells and Kronspine, right? So now they can't do that anymore.
Yeah, you have to swap out one of the bigger heroes because you still need the battle line, right? There's no negotiating with that. So yeah, these elite armies that were relying on Kronspine's durability are going to get hit by this. It's still going to see play, for sure.
Yeah, but like the really degenerate list was the he's a good player. He's a really good player. Anthony Trentinelli. He used to run 2 Lord of Changes, Kairos and Lord of Change with Kronspine. Oh boy. That list is gone, so it's good. It's probably good.
Yeah, Tzeentch might just go back to horrors. It's true, but it's not as aggressive as a Kronspine for sure.
Yeah,
I kind of hope they put out another Incarnate because Incarnates are a cool idea. Look, I hate this one. This one is too popular. If there were like 5 of them, and
because they all have the rule for not dying in one turn.
That's the thing that needs to change. That needs to change.
No, it's fine. We don't need Incarnates. Or actually, their execution was terrible. I'll say that. Yeah.
I would just like to see.
They're a cool concept, but the execution was awful.
Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up. That's what I like. That's what I'm trying to get at. Is like I like the cool factor of the Kronspine. I like the going wild should be like a big problem, but it's not, right? Like if the Kronspine could, if the Incarnate of Gur could pile in from 6 inches, and pile in 6 inches, this thing would be a lot more interesting. 3 inches is just too short, right? But if it goes wild and it gains a 6-inch pile in, think of how fun that would be. Because you would force it to attack your opponent so often, and then it's like,
please.
that would be so good. I'd love it.
It's like ulcer-inducing. I don't know.
The next Incarnate will be even better. You guys are gonna love it. It's gonna be the best. They didn't put out general rules for Incarnates.
Incarnate of Azir. I'll take that. It's like a giant.
There will be more Incarnates. I'm just hoping it's not soon. I hope they have some time to process for the new guy to really take a look at it and be like, hey, let's fix this.
What I've been saying for all this time is that it could just have been a monster. It didn't.
Yeah.
It did not need to be a mini Marathi. It could have just been a solid monster that everybody could take, and that would have been fine.
And that healed the full.
It could have like okay, fine. Like if you want to do the whole the +1 attack, the all out attack aura and the +1 to cast aura, fine. Just give it something, little bells and whistles or whatever. Just make it a solid monster, man. Just like 16 wounds, 400 points. Don't do all this like, it can't die in one turn bullshit. Like that's just like, this is bad mechanics. Like, nobody has fun against that.
If it ate like monsters, like if you kill the monster, it healed to full like immediately, like on killing it. Full. Like that still could have been cool.
Or if it ate it in the spell.
What happens at the end is just, oh gosh.
I would like for it to check if it dies at the end of each phase, personally, because the waiting until the end of the turn is just.
Like Croak.
Yeah, like Croak.
Yeah.
I want
Just
to
make
see
him croak.
everyone should suffer like I did the first time I cast a spell with Croak and miscast and Croak died.
It is what it is.
Yeah. Probably
No,
LVO will get another incarnate revealed. We'll
We'll
see.
see.
Yeah.
I,
Oh, God.
All right.
We'll see.
And the spell changes. Cogs. I think Cogs is the big one, right? Like
Yep.
40 points
Yeah.
for rerollable casting aura. Totally fine in an army like Stormcast where we have like 2 or 3 spells. Now we've got armies that have like a dozen spells per hero phase. So that had to go up. There's no way you can give that much consistency for 40
Well,
points.
now that Luminance in the game, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it has to
Yeah.
be.
It was too much. So that's good. Frankly, maybe even has to go higher. It might be appropriate to like have specific costs for specific armies, right? Like list the Chronomantic cogs in the Lumineth section and be like, Chronomantic cogs in a Lumineth army cost 100 points. Everybody else 40. Stuff like that. That might make sense going forward, but we'll see.
It's still a really powerful effect. If the thing is, like, there's a critical mass of spells when you cast when it starts to make sense to use cogs. And raising the cost for armies that really rely on that efficiency for 40 points, which is really, really cheap. I think it was a wise idea to just basically raise it to 70. I agree, it sucks for Krondys, but then again, in a Krondys list, we're only casting 2 spells, whereas even in like a typical Death army, you're casting anywhere from like 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah,
5 to 8.
I wasn't really using cogs with Krondys.
Well,
Yeah.
Krondys list is usually around 4, right, James? You've been playing a lot of Kroncast lately.
Well, Krondys also went down 50, so
Yeah, it kind of
we're
makes up for
chilling.
it.
Yeah,
Kroncast
we're chilling.
list
If-
basically
If you were
unchanged.
running it,
Spell Portal going up by 10. It doesn't really affect much. Lauchon up by 20. Okay, Thankful, thanks for that. You're a jerk. Dracolines are going to sit on the shelf for a bit longer. Purple Sun, that was already in the game. So, what do you guys think about them releasing the Purple Sun change like 3 weeks early?
I think it's good. I
Yeah,
think like
it
we were
was really
we were really seeing the Purple Sun a lot before that
Yeah.
change. And it had some insane swing potential where it was like ruining tournaments because like people showed up to like, and I'm not saying you know, the thing is you couldn't screen against it because that aura of insta kill was too large. You know, you slot the Purple Sun like somewhere and it hits 3 inches away and it's like, you know, it was very difficult to screen. So I'm glad they changed that just for tournament play. I think that it made the tournament scene more interesting
I
because
get
it's
that.
still there.
But let's say you get excited, like new seasonal rules come out. There's a Battlescroll or a new season, and they make a bunch of changes, and everybody gets excited. And then like you go out, you buy stuff, and you paint stuff, and you build it, and you get excited, and you make your lists. And then like 2 weeks after they make the changes, they nerf a bunch of stuff, and you're like, oh,
Mhm.
all right. Well, that sucks, right? Like that's a pretty crappy feeling. Nobody likes that.
I mean, it's
that-
still, the thing is, yeah, it is crappy feeling, but here's the thing, right? It's still a very powerful effect. The armies that care about it still really care about it. It's like Nighthaunt still uses it. The Purple Sun is basically an allegiance ability.
Yeah,
Nighthaunt.
that's-
they didn't care.
That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting
Yeah.
at is the way they did it, right? Just out of the blue,
Yeah.
one day there's now a Purple Sun change. If you're not paying attention to Warhammer community every single day, or like on using a Stormkeep Discord or something, you might not see it, right?
Mhm.
And that's I don't like that aspect of it. I like that they made the change. I just don't like that they pushed it out early, unannounced, rather than waiting for even an update like this. I think this is the right way to do
AOS
things.
Or optics.
AOS Coach pointed it out. They sort of did it early to see what effect it would have and if they needed to go further in this Battlescroll that they just released.
That's fair.
And from the looks of it, Purple Sun use has gone down. Like there are still lists that take advantage of it, like Nighthaunt with Midnight Tome, but overall, people aren't spamming it anymore at 90 points.
Which is
Just if
great.
they really want to play, it has to become a dedicated strategy as opposed to this thing I just slot in for 70 points because I have good spellcasters and it just kills things for me for 70 points.
No, I agree with the change. Don't like the way they did it personally, but yeah, we'll see. I like the idea of like a beta change, right? Maybe they should tag it like, because they've done that in the 40K, where they're like, here's a change we're considering doing. Please play test it, and if it's good, we'll implement it. If not, we'll tweak it. Right? They've done stuff like that
Yeah,
for
I'm okay with
40K.
that.
They could do it for
Or they
AOS
just
too.
shove it out like those engagement rules in Ruins. And then they take it back.
Oops.
Oh man, 8-inch deep strike for Stormcast. I would like that.
All right. Rule clarifications. In addition to point changes, we got long-awaited rule clarifications for the dozen people that care about this. We're just going to go over them quickly here. First one, I'm going to take the L on this one. They clarified that identical replacements do not keep battalions or effects applied during the battle. I thought they did, because what else would identical mean if it didn't mean that? But they've clarified it, so the debate is over. I was wrong, and we can move on. And sadly, our Vanquishers that we've been reviving with Call for Aid don't get the Bounty Hunter bonus. But we will keep reviving them because Call for Aid is really good.
Yep.
And Vanquishers
it's still
are
extremely good.
Vanquishers are going to be in every list, so get ready to play against that every single game. Next one, if you use Heroic Willpower and you gained the Wizard keyword, like if you used Arcane Tome, for example, and you had Unbinds already, you cannot use that to get an extra Unbind. I guess I didn't agree with that ruling personally.
Wait, no, you could always...
That's not really what it's saying.
No. It said the Rune Lord can't do it.
No, it was, yeah.
Well,
No.
What it said was, if you already have an Unbind, because you have an Unbind on your War Scroll, you can't gain an extra.
Yeah, I kind of muddled the wording there. That's correct.
Yeah.
If you have an Unbind and you gain Wizard and you use Heroic Willpower, you still just get the one Unbind from being, you're Unbind on the War Scroll, basically.
Yeah.
Gaining Wizard does not give you another Unbind, is what that's effectively
It also
saying.
just precludes you from Heroic Willpower.
Yes, because you can't be a Wizard and use it.
Yeah. So ignore the Heroic Willpower.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Also, so that's... Being like Arcane Tome also doesn't just give you extra Unbinds even without Heroic Willpower. So those are just double nerfs to the Rune Lord, and as far as I can tell, that might be the only model that matters for this. There might be some others that have Unbinds here and there. How many of them are heroes? How many of them took the Arcane Tome? How many of them are in play? I don't know the answer to these questions. None. Probably none, right? If I can't think of it off the top of my head, it's probably none.
Yeah.
They clarified with like an essay. They clarified the timing of ignoring spells, which is great because I don't know if anybody else has gone through this, but you play a Purple Sun and against like Storm Drakes because they have a 4-up spell ignore, and the person who cast person with the Storm Drakes insists that every single time you make a save roll, you check if the Purple Sun aura is in effect on a 4+.
Well, that one was easily solvable
for the two effects. Yeah.
If you read like the core rules, the big issue on this one was people were checking for spell ignore effects and such during movement.
Yeah, because you would pass in that aura, right?
So basically, like if you were the Storm Drake player, you try to move your Drakes in and just add a little bit till you got the effect that you wanted, which is rolling your 4. Or opposite, you would put the Purple Sun in and out. And if you did that with like tech lists, and you moved units in and out, or him in and out, you could technically do infinite damage.
Well, we'll talk about the techless thing.
Which was not cool.
It still does a ton of damage. It doesn't do infinite.
It still does a good amount. Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. And obviously, I don't think that should work. I think the context is important, but we'll get to that on the what's missing section. But yeah, a whole freaking page devoted to this. I want to see more of this. Give us paragraphs. Give us essays. Give us thesis documents of your rules.
Yes.
We want just talk about the game and how it works. That's all I want. I want to know if Bastion can issue his holy command anywhere on the table. I just want to know that.
We're getting that answer. We're never getting that answer.
Nope.
Units must be picked to fight. What is that?
That's an important one, actually.
You were talking about this one. For things like grand strategies that require units to have fought, like the Daughters of Cain one, it specifically says, for the purposes of grand strategies and battle tactics, the units have to be picked to fight, which means not like fighting in the combat phase, not fighting through extra abilities like fighting on death or fighting after charging immediately or fighting in the hero phase or things like that. So you have to specifically pick the units to fight in order to score battle tactics and strategies, which has some interesting implications. I think Daughters of Cain players are going to drop that grand strategy. They're not going to use it anymore. We got clarification that Guided by Lightning works the way it works. No, but there was a serious argument. I respect the people who held the opposite view, but it seems like we were correct. Guided by Lightning can be used in the same turn that the Lord Imperator is deployed. I think maybe that was one of the reasons a lot of people weren't using Grand Hammers. They have like a 2% inclusion rate right now, which is crazy because they're so good. Maybe this will
me and Daniel, the 2%.
That's it. That's us.
So there's what? Like 50 Stormcast players?
Yeah, for real.
I guess. Yeah.
30 and 56.
There's a lot of rule stuff behind that as to why I was.
I feel like that 2% might also been like, because I've attended like 6 or 7 GTs this year. It might have just been like the two of us taking Grand Hammers multiple times. Just like, okay.
Dress.
Yeah.
They clarified how the Nagash revive bonuses work. I don't know anybody who asked this question because I don't know anybody who's played Nagash since he got his new War Scroll. But it's good to have it clarified because I'm sure there were arguments about that. Like,
I mean, they clarified something like, do I need to spend Blood Tithe in order to get Blood Tithe?
Oh my god!
I didn't include
I was like,
that
who
one.
asked this question? I was like,
people ask these kinds of things. Trust me, they do.
there was a question: can you pick a unit to shoot if it doesn't have missile weapons? And the
Oh,
reason
yeah,
for
for
that
Kron
question
Spine?
is because of the Kron Spine. Because anytime you pick the Kron Spine to attack, it could use its +1 hit with all out attack and spread that to multiple units. So you
Yep.
could, if you were reading the rules in a way that they didn't agree with,
Oh my God.
you could
Yeah.
pick the Kron Spine to
Yeah.
shoot, even though it didn't have a missile weapon, issue all out attack, and then spread that to 3 units.
That was just pure copium.
Yep. And then the final big clarification was that the Mernmorn Banshee Spell Eaters, all of the restrictions on that ability have been clarified, so there should be no more argument about that ability, and everybody can recognize that it is a bad ability on a unit that is overcosted. Really hard to use that ability. It's the number of times it works and works well, you could count on one hand, I think, per year. And then rule changes. So I wanted to make this clear that the previous things were clarifications. The game always worked that way. And these are specifically rule changes. So the game did not work this way, but it will going forwards. And the first one is that Strike and Fade happens after Fight on Death effects, which I'm going to take the L on this one again. I've been arguing with a lot of people in Discord about this. I was under the impression that the game already worked this way because the way it was written. It seems now Strike and Fade has this stipulation, and if other abilities are not worded in the same way as Strike and Fade, there's going to be precedent set that Fight on Death would happen before. So hopefully, going forward,
I like that, yeah.
all of the Strike and Fade, like after combat effects, are worded the same
Will
way.
be worded this way.
Ideally, they would just change the core rules, so you wouldn't have to do it. But that's how it works.
There's a lot of things need to be fixed.
Yeah. 4th edition. Best rules ever.
The best rules ever. At least we're not 40k.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Oh, there was a thing that we were going to annoy each other with. It's just popping emojis off in here, right?
Oh gosh, no.
I'm glad I don't
All
remember.
right, let's move. Moving on.
Anyways,
Spellsinger, the one command trait that every Sylvaneth player uses, doesn't work on endless spells anymore. So you can't whip Purple Suns through woods across the table. Don't know many people who are doing that. Frankly, it was mostly like Spite Stormhide into Kurnoths.
No. The
Is
other
that
one,
super
the
common?
one that's like a worm.
No.
The worm
Oh,
is-
the Glade Worm.
the,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like killer if you could
Mhm.
like put that through, which is good because
full
like
root.
endless spells are like fundamentally balanced around having great effects, but based on the nerfing factor of them is their range. Like Purple Sun is really good, but the range is really small. But if the Purple Sun has infinite range on the board because you can cast it through a Awakened Wildwood, that's a problem. So I like that change. It's fine.
Yep.
Movement.
Easy to use.
Get ready, Dan. Big wins
Oh,
here.
God.
All across the board. Units cannot move if they make a normal move
Yep.
if they're within 3 inches. They cannot run if they're within 3 inches, and they cannot retreat if they're not within 3 inches. This is exactly what we've been saying, how the game works, and they had to errata to put this in. We were right.
Stormdrakes could always move in the hero phase.
Yes.
But oh well. It is what it is.
It's
you
over.
know?
But yeah, so this clarifies it. You cannot make a normal move if you're within 3 inches, which makes me wonder how Blood Knights are going to work now. Is the fact that they have a War Scroll rule that says they can make a normal move?
No,
Does that
it
supersede this?
specifically says it specifically says they can. So
Yes.
it's
Well, hold
it's
on.
really-
to be clear,
I
their
know,
rule
can
doesn't
versus
allow
cannot.
them. No. Their rule doesn't allow them to do it. Their rule says make a normal move. It doesn't
Yes.
allow them to. It
No,
just
no.
says to do it.
But it says make a normal move even
No,
if
it
they're
says
within
it
3
can make a normal
no,
move.
but it says can, and there is the argument of can versus cannot, which is under contention. But it's
I'm just going to play it the cooler
nothing
way,
is
and that it
perfect.
works. Okay?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
cooler,
nothing is
Cool,
more
perfect.
fun.
We're just gonna go with it.
I don't think anyone is complaining about that. but
Yeah, it's fine.
No.
Now Stormdrakes really can't move.
When fighting.
Yes, now they
Good.
really can't do it. Yeah.
I mean, they nerfed that, so I'm not gonna even bother
Yeah.
bringing that
Thanks,
up.
Gabitson.
Another one, and this one I think is ridiculous. Units
Yeah, I
must
don't like
maintain
this.
cohesion when you are fighting on death. That's
That sucks.
It's
Big
really
nerf for
bad.
Xanthar Kai. Big nerf for Xanthar Kai, actually.
Yes, because each model it activates one at a time. You remove models
Yeah.
one at a time. So when the model dies, you have to move in coherency with the one model.
But you can't
the
move
rest
the
of
rest of
models
the
can't
unit
move.
that's alive. You can't move
Yeah.
the rest of the unit that's alive. So it's so
Even if
stupid.
everything, even if the whole unit died, you can't move the unit at once and attack something. Which I always thought since the unit was operating by itself, or the model, sorry, was operating by itself, it didn't need to use coherency rules. But Here we have
Well,
this. I
technically,
really don't
that
like
was true.
this.
No, you were right. The way it worked was that you didn't have to maintain coherency. Now you do.
Right.
Yeah.
This is an errata. This is
Yeah.
a new way the game functions. Because the rules on piling in, the rules on cohesion is when the unit moves, not when the model moves.
Yeah.
Right now,
Mhm.
it's clarified. If you have an ability that lets you fight on death, you have to maintain cohesion. And this sucks because I really like piling in my models and then like with using only the faithful, piling them in towards something that I didn't even want to blow up on. Right, get an extra distance, get in range for Blaze of Glory. It was great. This is just
Yes.
gonna make it more awkward to use. It's gonna it's gonna slow games down because
Yeah.
well, maybe not. Maybe it makes
Yeah,
things
because you have to
faster.
because it matters. Because if you kill another multi-model unit, you have a multi-model unit attacking this multi-model unit with your fight on death. They can remove models so they're out of range of your other fight on deaths,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just
Yeah.
out of range and you lose damage. You straight up lose
Yep.
damage from this rule. I really
Yeah,
don't
it
like
makes
it.
the fight on death abilities much weaker.
Like it's not important for us,
Not that
really,
much,
because
but
we don't have.
it is weaker. Yeah.
But it sucks for everyone else, and I don't think that's cool. I don't like when other people are nerfed like this either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't agree with this change necessarily, but that's the way it is, and the rules are clear, so there's no arguing about it, which is great.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I mean, yeah, that's the objectively good thing.
That's the silver
Sure.
lining here, that it's
Yeah.
clear. I hope.
Yeah, 100%.
Just like cut like Arrested Development theme or into like some rule argument a month from now
Yeah.
about this. No, not Arrested Development. What do you call it? Ah, God, what's the Larry David show? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't know.
Next
Curb Your
next.
Enthusiasm.
That's it. That's the one.
Yeah.
All right. Invocations can't be summoned back if you banish them in that same turn. This affected literally 3 games that happened across the United States in the history of Age of Sigmar. Because nobody's using invocations and nobody's banishing them, so okay, but it's good. It works like an endless spell.
I don't know.
I
I'm
banished Heart of Fury,
Fury.
man. Yeah, I
I
banished Heart of
Fury
Fury.
every time.
But
Yeah.
everyone always assumed that they work like endless spells.
Yeah. Who thought that they didn't work this way?
They
They
didn't.
didn't before.
They didn't.
That's the
This is
thing.
an
They
errata.
didn't.
Crazy.
Yeah. It just didn't.
Another rule change:
Speaking of
only Stormcast wizards can summon Stormcast endless spells. I don't like this. I liked using the Slan
Stormcast.
and Battle Mage
Yeah.
to cast my spells. Oh well. This
Yeah.
sucks.
Oh well.
Well.
The +1 was nice. It's not so
Back to
bad
the Night
with Master
Incanter.
Magic.
Another change: Soulblight Gravelord spell Spectral Grasp now has a defined end time, so it no longer
Mhm.
activates when you start a normal move, and then just that's it for the rest
And
of the
then
game.
just sticks around because reasons.
So that's good. Another one here. I'm confused about why they did this one. It says models
It
inside
was
the Sky
unclear.
Vessel can't contest objectives. Was this always
I
the
think it's because they
intended-
had
Because
they clarified that models and garrisons can't do it, but the Sky
Yes.
Vessel was like a unit garrison, so people were like, "Oh, it doesn't apply to Sky Vessel."
Okay.
Yes,
They
that's
were like,
why
"No, it
it's
does."
it's
Yeah.
the interaction between it acting as a garrison because
Okay.
garrison isn't the terrain feature. It's weird.
Yeah. It's
So-
not a terrain garrison feature. It's a
So,
straight up.
so this is for like rules purposes. They're doing this like keeping everything consistent. But this is a nerf to Caradron for sure, right? Like
Yeah,
they,
it
they
is,
have
yeah.
to wipe
Yes,
stuff
it
off
is.
objectives now. They can't
And they
contest it.
clarified like the battle tactic, for example, where you could just like show up on an objective and you didn't have to disembark,
Mhm.
which was like kind of dumb. It was really
What I wish they clarified was like because we know that Caradron garrisons are treated differently than garrison terrain features on the field. How does line of sight work? Like it's okay if I can see an ironclad because it's over
Well-
10 wounds, but you know what I mean?
no
like,
line of
I-
sight. It still works off of the garrison unit. Like it's always worked from the garrison.
Yeah, you just shoot the template
No,
if you're playing Seraphon.
But Ironclad, for
No,
example,
I know,
can
but
see-
but
the
it matters
units in
for
Ironclad can see through Wildwoods.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
I wish they'd
they
like
can.
actually like I actively stated that because right now like that's how we're doing
That-
it. But if
yeah.
their intention is that a living garrison is different than a garrison terrain feature, then does the line of sight visibility rules also like what are the intended rules for that?
That's
Have-
fair.
Having
It
that
could be
clear
that.
in the rules would be good.
Yeah.
Raw it still ignores Wildwoods.
Yeah.
Next up, Harvester revives models as they are removed, not as they are slain. Because in second edition,
Yes.
slain and removed were the same thing, so they always use the term
Mhm.
slain. In third edition,
Yeah.
removal happens after all models are slain, so which means the unit gets
Mhm.
wiped out before you have a chance to.
Well, attacks are
revive.
resolved. It's kind of weird, but
This
Yeah.
matters because it means now like if they do enough damage to completely wipe your Mortec Guard unit, you will not get those 4-up revives. Where seriously, you could basically just keep
Yes.
rolling one at a time. So it makes the game faster. It clarifies the rule. I was already playing it this way, But yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
It's a good
it's
change.
one of those weird things that transition from second to third. These very slight rule changes that cause like Cycle of the Storm to be insanely strong for like a week.
And then they changed it in the app.
I blame you for that. Damn it.
That was my fault, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
rope James in. That's also your fault. You and I were on that episode together.
You were the only two.
Yeah.
We were the only three. Actually, no, because I
No,
was
you
out that
weren't
week.
there,
You're
yeah.
right.
You
Yeah.
weren't
Yeah, I
there.
wasn't there.
I was just like I wanted to make sure I understood it, right? And it turns out we
Yeah.
did, and we understood it too well, and it got nerfed. So,
Which is probably a good thing.
All right.
Lumineth-
Lumineth unique wizards can learn spells. Whatever.
just one spell, by the way, just one.
Yeah, just unless
It's fine. They play Techless at KC Open like he knew all spells, so that change they know for a fact it's coming. So,
Okay.
Lumineth players rest at ease.
FAQ next week.
Good, because our review is assuming Techless casts all the spells, because nothing else makes sense. So we'll
Yeah, no.
we'll get
700 points or a one caster. Oh boy.
no,
Yeah.
no thanks.
Nagash
Krondos would
bonked
love
him
it.
too hard, dude. Nagash just
Yeah.
and
Gave
then no
him
more
the big
spells.
suck.
Too depressed, man.
Yeah, the big suck.
Too depressed.
Spirit hosts are no longer a table-wide bodyguard. Thankfully,
Yeah, this was
is
weird.
good.
This happened maybe twice.
change.
We talked about this in our How to Counter Night Haunt video. I think we even surprised Alex with the way this worked, but that is technically how it
Yeah.
worked. You're right. You could
it's-
allocate wounds to any spirit host on the table as long as one unit of spirit host
Well-
is within 3 inches.
Yeah.
Not
He
anymore.
was also surprised by the other unit, which is Cruciator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Cruciated Aura no longer stacks. I kind of wish they changed its -1 damage effect. It probably won't be a problem after this season, honestly. It's just this
The
season's
only
propping
person I
them up
knew
so
who was
much.
abusing this was Tom from Warhammer Weekly. He's freaking 2 Cruciators so he could just
I
like
always saw everyone talk about it, but never actually do it.
It's such a
know.
marginal bonus in that army because like they want 3 heroes and the third one isn't a second Cruciator. You know what I mean? So it's like
also
you're
think about all the damage heavy armies though, right? Like it's like if they go up against Iron Jaws, like
They need it.
they are turning the pig's damage to 1,
Yeah.
but turning the Maw Crush's damage to 1, it's like,
Ooh.
hey, congrats on your 600 point unit that only does like 10 damage a turn
Yeah,
to my whole army.
it's a good
Yeah.
change.
Really.
Good change overall.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what didn't change and maybe what should have. So here's my short list, and you guys can feel free to add on to your own and chat. Let us know what you think should have changed. First up, I got battalions. I thought for sure we were going to see changes to Battle Regiment and Bounty Hunters. Those two are warping the game more than any War Scroll, more than any point value. The game is completely centered around these 2 battalions. Every decision you make in list building and therefore how the game turns out are based on these battalions, and that's too much. That's too much. List building shouldn't be this centered around these 2 battalions. So I thought for sure we were going to see changes.
Yeah.
My problem is all the elves. When I say elves, I mean IDK, Sylvaneth, DOK, LRL are all just Battle Regiment spammers because they have to be. They all need to either get their buffs up or not take first turn so the enemy can come into the midboard and they can hit them. And these 4 armies are so reliant on Battle Regiment, it kills list building in these armies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
I'm not saying the other lists can't work. Like Tom Guan just came 3rd with like a Warlord, Expert Conqueror, Command Entourage, what have you. But when so many of these lists are going Battle Regiment for that efficiency, it's way too strong for what it does. I think it needs to either be reduced in the number of units it can take, or it needs to just go away. Just people have interesting enhancements. Let them play with them. Let's just not make every army just shooting for a double.
well,
Other
all the time.
people
Some
have interesting
armies,
enhancements.
some
Well,
armies.
sure,
have-
Observer, yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's fine because, that's why maybe that is the balancing factor. Maybe our enhancements suck, but we would be the only army with like a unified 1-drop battalion.
Mm-hmm. That would be nice. But the problem with that is that not every army has battalions, which is weird, right? Like some armies just don't. Or some have
Mason
like
is like power gamers. Mason, you are a power gamer. Let's just be honest.
Oof.
Okay.
yeah, I kind of would like to see them revamp battalions as a whole, but I think the change I want, like more customization to monsters, to heroes, to like anything really. Like I want more stuff like bounty hunters, more stuff like expert conquerors, and I want these at the same
Hunters
time as
of
I
Heartland
want
even.
Battle Regiment to get gutted. But more than anything else, I think it's time Age of Sigmar dropped the person who deploys first, chooses who goes first. I think it should go like 40k where you
Yes.
roll off and the winner has to go first.
It would
Yeah.
make things more interesting.
Absolutely. No, totally. I would take that any day.
I agree though. Mason Daughters of Cain is the biggest winner of this update.
Except for
Yeah.
the Kronspine nerf.
Well, dude, that was just
Well, no,
that was
actually,
just the
no,
cherry on the
because-
top, dude. That was just icing.
Yeah,
on top.
that was just like, oh, we don't get to do this like one degenerate thing, but
Yeah.
they basically got no nerfs, and they're still like a high win rate army.
They're still great.
60%.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Like they like
Yeah,
seeing
they
the
are.
Seraph on nerf.
dude, witch
yeah.
elves.
Like they saw
They gotta
yeah,
start
they saw
starting
Seraphon go
with that.
down. Yeah, they saw Zinch go down. The two armies that deal with them really well.
They handled BOC just fine before.
Yeah, they handled BOC.
They
just
literally
fine.
didn't care.
Yeah,
Uh,
like
Ch-
Tomlin's list will eat BOC for lunch. I think.
Mhm.
Chase, you got it a little wrong there. There were changes to Night Relictor. Some significant
That's true.
changes.
Night Relictor.
Yeah. I'm glad we did that painting contest a year ago.
Oh yeah.
But there were
That was
there
the reason
were
this happened.
there were no changes to Sacrosanct units, which is very curious because more than anything else in the book, our Sacrosanct units are probably the worst. Like consistently across the army, Sacrosanct are the worst units in the book.
Yeah.
Right,
Overpointed.
like,
I think that
Vanguard
everything is
Raptors
way too
Holding
overpointed.
up Vanguard. by
Castigators, worst shooting. Sequitors, worst redeemers. Ballistas, basically unplayable because they're just inefficient and awkward to fit in battalions.
Dracolines, worst
Dracolines
cavalry.
are the worst cavalry. Well, Paladors. I'd
Well,
say
not okay,
Paladors,
not worse. They're
I
not
think,
desolators.
like if they had
Yeah.
just like done like what they did to Cruel Boys, where they dropped the entire Sacrosanct Chamber by like 25 to 30 points, it would have
Yep.
been so good. It would have made that whole
Yeah.
range playable.
Yep.
Probably.
But I don't know why they didn't.
Can you imagine like Stormcast block of point changes, like half a page, and then like your faction,
Yeah,
Royal
no, but
Terrorgeist?
I'm like crossing my fingers and praying like the reason they did this is because they wanted to get the key point changes out in the Battlescroll, and maybe we're getting something in the GHB. And this is just pure copium, whatever you want to call it. But I do think like Sacrosanct, like it would seriously become playable if all that Sacrosanct just went down by 25 to 30 points,
That's all it
same as
needs.
Aventus, or
That's all it needs.
Because
It's
the
just
Aventus
inefficient.
point change is nice. Like the Aventus is playable now. Like we said he was always A tier, but you would always just take a tall run. Well, at 270 he's playable now.
More
If
than
all of
playable,
Sacrosanct goes down 25 points tomorrow, a lot of that becomes playable tomorrow.
For sure, yeah. Well, except Castigators, they have to be so cheap. I don't think they're ever going to get there. They would have to be
No,
like
25 points would no. Okay, where would 25 points put Castigators? At 80? Would you play them at 80? I would.
sometimes as a
I would
squad
play
of
them
3,
again.
but their damage
Yeah.
output is bad. Their volley is bad. They can't double reinforce.
Okay,
Like
damage output is bad, but if you think about a Sacrosanct themed list, like in a list where I have foot evocators that are 200 points or 205 points, I would take a 160 point unit that can put out roughly on average 18 shots on 2s and 2s, -2 red, 1 damage.
that's okay. They might become playable, but they still have a bad.
It
Thunderbolt
turns them
volley.
into Reavers, right? Because if we look at Reavers at 170 points for 20 shots at 3s and 3s -1/1.
Do you think they'd
Would you
ever
not
have a
do that?
Stormcast like not bird unit be 80 points though? Do you think they'd ever get that low?
They were last edition, and because nobody played them ever, and now like 80 points would actually make them playable, not broken, but playable.
Just playable.
I'm
Yeah.
on board insofar as I want to use my Castigators. I'm just skeptical that would happen. I don't think anything's going under 100 points for Stormcast.
I never thought IOC Vanquish was 110, but hey, it happens.
Yeah,
That's true.
anything can happen at this point. Except
Yeah,
changes
to be
to.
fair,
I like that. Like I said, I really like the new like guy, the balance guy, Matt, the guy ex Ubisoft or whatever. He knows
Yes,
what he's
Matt
talking
Rose.
about. Like he at least has a good
He's-
like perspective on things. So
I
I'm
actually
hopeful
watched
for
the
it.
whole 27-minute video, and it was worth
Yeah.
watching. He had to say some things in kind of like a dumbed down manner for like more garage hammery people.
Mason
But
the
he
dog
did a
unit
good job
just
of it.
yeah, Mason the dogs, the Griffhounds, they just need to go to units of 3 for like
Yeah, units of
Units
three.
of 3. For the
Same
love
point
of
cost.
God, please.
yeah, just make them
Yeah.
the same as Aether Wings. I
Same
don't know why
point
they have like a dog pack of 6 roaming around like for 110. I have no
Yeah.
idea. Just make them like
Cut
units
the
of
point
3 for
cost in
60.
half, cut the unit in half.
Yeah.
Cut both in half, and
Yeah.
you're good. That's it.
I don't even need it. It doesn't even need to be that cheap. I would pay 65 points for it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Aether Wing costs 3 dogs.
Yeah.
3 dogs or 3 Aether Wings. I would take it. Yeah.
Take
Right.
it in a heartbeat.
Every day.
No changes to the Knight Arcanum or Knight Vexillor. I think that stands out on its own because every other unit in Dominion was reduced. And
That's
most
true.
of Thunderstrike was reduced, right? Like Vigilor, Vanquisher, Annihilator, Praetors. All this stuff got reduced. Why not these 2 heroes?
That's what makes me think it may be the GHB. Because the Knight Arcanum, nobody's taking it. It is in the exact same spot as the Knight Relictor, where a 25 point decrease or 20 point decrease would make it see play.
Yeah.
It needs a war scroll change, man.
If-
It needs to be like a
No.
9-inch radius.
I would say it does need a war scroll change, but the niche of the Knight Arcanum isn't its war scroll ability. If it drops by 25 points to 110, it becomes the cheapest wizard.
yeah, it
in the
becomes the
Stormcast
cheapest
army.
wizard,
Yeah.
sure. But I still
No.
take a battle mage
Battle
every day of the
Mage.
week.
No,
Yep.
not the battle mage. No.
I still
a
take a
cheapest
battle
wizard that
mage.
can cast a comet.
Okay.
It's
a bad niche.
sure.
Wait, no, Heraldor with a tome.
Non-enhanced. Also, like its War Scroll spell is actually pretty nice. It's like a targeted smite that like
It's
increases range as you take more
cool.
Thunderstrike units. It's actually fine.
Or,
I
but oh,
Knight Arcanum's got to be 100 points. Knight Vexillor with
Mhm.
that banner's got to be 130,
30.
maybe 120.
Yeah,
130.
even.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
130.
They're just not good. Neither of them are good.
even if Droster went down, she has the better version of his effect.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just disappointing.
Yeah. What
And
else?
yet,
Okay,
still
the
not
comment may
enough to
not
be
be worth
seen
it.
worth play.
Well,
Comet could
we'll-
probably go down to Chase.
We'll
whatever.
talk about
I think it's just
the
yeah.
Androstra.
Well, let's just go. It's just
Yeah,
Techless learning all spells,
Techless needs to learn all the spells. That has to be in the next round.
which is happening. I know for a fact.
I guess it's coming next week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's a Stormkeep exclusive here. News
Well, I mean,
drop.
if you were at KC, like the judges openly said we've spoken to the design studio and they said that's how it's going to work. So it's a clarification.
It'll,
Okay.
it'll come.
Good to know. Hopefully it happens. So here's a weird one. Currently, the way Techless's ability is worded is that anytime a friendly unit is affected by an endless spell or a spell cast by an enemy wizard, and the way
Mhm.
that specifically is worded is that it could be an endless spell cast by anyone or a spell cast by an endless wizard. Which means if you
It's
put an
inflection.
aura, the context seems to imply that both have to be cast by an enemy wizard, but that's not how rules are written in Age of Sigmar. You need to be very specific, right? So the implication is that if you cast a spell with an aura effect, so like Chronomantic Cogs, then anytime your
Or the
unit
ward.
or anything, any endless spell, right? You cast that spell, and every time a unit is affected by it, you have a 4+ spell ignore. And if you ignore it, you pick a unit within 18 and deal D3 wounds. So let's say you cast your Cogs, and it affects, I don't know, 7 units in your army. Something like that. That seems about right for a Lumineth army. Then you roll 4 up each time, and for each 4 up, you deal D3 mortal wounds to an enemy unit. From casting
Actually,
your own
it's
spell.
not even. If you're reading it really generously, you don't have to roll the 4 up. Go read
Yeah,
it. It just
because it
does
says
D3.
in addition. Yeah,
Yeah,
because
it
it
just
says you
does
ignore the
D3.
spell and then it says D3. So if you're being
Yeah.
really
I'm
generous,
trying
like,
to be generous here.
I don't know. I think it's all
I mean,
inflection.
It's silly.
This ability is insane.
You can read it with
It's
inflection.
insane.
It's all silly. The intent, obviously, is
Yes.
that the endless spell has to be cast by an enemy. So this needs to be errated so that there's no arguments about this, because you just know
Yeah.
somebody's going to do this.
It's like the bugs healing
They
in
did.
Sylvaneth.
My I think I don't know if Martin or Orlando did this, but I know for a fact John did. Who's my like a local from who plays Lumineth. He basically casts a Horrorghast in front of his army and triggers he has 8 units in his army. So he rolls 8 dice and he goes, yeah, take 5 D3 mortal wounds on this
Yep.
unit.
And then you cast
Yeah.
the cogs and do it again. It's
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
it's dumb. It's got to be changed.
it's silly.
This is the last one I really wanted to hit on here. They really need to
Yes.
clarify auras and pulses. Whatever name they want to give a pulse, just call it a not aura. It doesn't matter. Pulse is kind of the colloquial term we've been using for it.
Yeah.
But clarify what is an aura and what is not an aura, because there's too many rule arguments that happen of, well, do I have to stay within range with this unit? The ability doesn't say I have to stay within range, and it has an end time. So is it an aura? Is it not an aura? It's confusing. So like 40k, we need a proper definition of an aura, and abilities need to start getting tagged as auras. I think that's the minimum we need here.
Yeah.
One of the
I think so.
easier Kybitson pointed this out the other day, was like one of the easiest like pulses is probably Thundershock. It's like one of the easiest
Yeah.
ones, you know? Like it's an effect that happens, but you don't have to stay within the area. Whereas like something like Torlon is unfortunately a lot less clear.
Yeah.
And we
Well,
just
it's like
don't
Astrea
know.
Soulbright. Yeah, it's like the Astrea Soulbright Thunderdome. You know, is it a 6-inch aura of -1 to hit because she has a dome of lightning that surrounds her, or is it a pulse?
The way
effect,
it's
or
worded,
just-
I'm pretty sure you don't have to remain within range, so it
Yeah.
would be a pulse.
We-
And there
yeah,
is
we just
there
don't
is
know.
precedent in 3rd edition battle tomes for activated auras that you have to remain in range, and I believe it's the Fire Slayers. What's his name? The Rune Fathers. Their ability.
Battlesmith?
No, the Rune Fathers. They have an
Yeah,
ability
Rune
where you
Father.
have to remain
Yeah.
within range in order to get bonus attacks. That is an activated aura, which is different than other abilities, which are not auras, but they are still activated in the same way. Last for the phase, all this stuff. So it'd be good to just get official clarification on that,
Yeah.
because it's hard to make value judgments on units like the Toralon. Frankly, I think it might even get better if it is an aura, because then you can just deep strike shooting into play next to it and get the bonus. So
Mhm.
I just
Yeah.
want to know how to
That's
use this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, because even in the core rules, like in the where they clarified, stuff about command abilities, they talk about Manfred's ability. It doesn't have the while within key that would make things super easy for auras. Just have it say while within this aura,
Yes.
it would make it super easy. But that doesn't have it, and yet in the core rules where they talk about the ability, they say, oh, the units have to remain. It says in there
Yeah.
while within, and I'm like, why not just fix it? It's
Yeah.
stress.
It's confusing
Yeah.
unnecessarily, and it should be cleaned up. This is the kind of rule tidying I'm hoping we get more of it. This Battlescroll made me hopeful for the first time that we are actually going to get changes for these things, which would hopefully result in less rules discussions, let's say.
Yeah,
to put it politely.
Yeah, let's get to playing with the models and not with trying to fidget with the rules, guys.
Yeah, let's not argue about rules, guys. Yeah.
So what else was missing from this? What did you guys really want to see in here that we didn't see?
I mean,
I wanted to see more robust terrain rules, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, so for those of you who don't know or maybe don't attend GTs as much, they have basically gone towards a standard template of what a board should look like. And the idea is something like there's 2 garrisons on each end, there are 2 terrains in the middle that you can sort of land on. There's 4 wildwoods in each corner, so like 1 in each corner that you can hide things in from shooting, from spells and what have you. I wish they would have clarified maybe something like that, like a terrain layout.
Because 40K
maybe
has
like
that.
Yeah, 40K has
40K
that.
has a standardized GW terrain.
Yeah, I wish they would have clarified.
Maybe 3 inches, or like when you're climbing on stuff, how you can climb.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, it's so annoying.
Like, how do you climb those little steps? Like, what's that intended?
How do you charge that kind of unit? Because you can't get something within a half inch. It's unchargeable if it's an inch off the ground.
Here's one. Can a unit finish a move on top of a piece of terrain if its base can't finish on top of the terrain and there's units underneath it? So like, let's say you have like, I don't know, a column.
Yeah,
the column is 6
like you're
inches tall.
tilting the unit. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Can you put like a unit on top of the column and have an enemy unit 6 inches down? Stuff like that should be clarified.
You can't have bases overlap for sure. That's 100% in the rules, but it's just not clear how they want.
Well, how high vertically? If I have a model on the 3rd floor of a building, can there be a model on the 2nd floor or the 1st floor?
According to the rules as written, you cannot. You can't have any models that are on top of other models.
Which makes you impossible to charge then, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's we don't have good verticality rules. It's terrible.
Yeah, it would be nice.
The other thing I kind of wished for was there's a lot of tomes in 3.0, specifically tomes like Iron Jaws, Ivan Deepkin, Fire Slayers, a couple others that maybe could have used a bit of tweaking. But I think if the statistics for those factions fall within the acceptable rate to where they'll just tweak a bit in the GHB, they're not like a hot button item or something that needs to be addressed immediately. But and also I think like Paul said, I think they are waiting for the season to change and get out of bounty hunters, because I think that disproportionately affects a faction like Fire Slayers, for instance.
Just wait till bounty hunters is gone. Hearthguard Berserker Blobs are going to be ridiculous again.
Yeah. Going back to the battalions a bit, I'd like to see battalions almost come back. If we simultaneously had Hunters of the Heartland, Expert Conquerors, Bounty Hunters, and whatever's coming next, if they had multiple options for battalions, it would make list building so much cooler.
Yeah.
Maybe to the point where Battle Regiment could even stay, maybe not in its same form, because it's a little too easy to make a Battle Regiment. Maybe they just edit Battle Regiment to be harder to fulfill the requirements, and then bring back in stuff like Hunters of the Heartland, stuff like Bounty Hunters, where when you build your army, it's a whole nother, ecosystem of things you can do.
Yeah, I have been saying from the very beginning that the way to make the core battalions that we never see playable again would be to roll back the ruling that taking those battalions prevented you from double issuing those commands. Because if I could take a Vanguard battalion and get double auto 6 runs or stuff like that, that would be awesome.
That would be more interesting.
I would take it in a heartbeat.
But it's not as interesting as determining who goes first in the first round of the game in a 3-round game.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's the problem, right?
It's too easily.
Simultaneously, they have to make battalions really good. We could make a video about this, honestly.
We could totally do it.
Yeah.
This would be a really theory craft.
Regiment should go.
Well, no, kind of just reworking battalions conceptually and how to improve them for a new season, right? Bring back Hunters of the Heartland. Cool, you can have units immune to rampage.
So I don't actually. So to the counterpoint of that, I don't think they should have. I like the seasonal battalions. I don't think they should have all the seasonal battalions available to every army at once. And I'll tell you why. It's an
but
insane. It makes army building more interesting, but it's an insane amount of bookkeeping.
it's a lot of complexity.
If you have,
Yeah.
yeah. So let's say
Yeah.
we're like 4 seasons deep. Every one of them, each of these seasons have 2 special GHB battalions that we're allowed to use. And so at the 5th season, which every game goes like typically about 3 years, so we will get a 4th or 5th season. You're now having to let's say make an army comprised of all these. Imagine the amount of bookkeeping you and your opponent have to do. This is in Expert Conquerors. This is in Hunters of the Heartland. This is in Bounty Hunters. This is in
I've thought about that.
Galatian Survivors,
whatever. Let me give you the counterpoint I eventually came to is that already exists, but everybody ignores it.
It's already there.
Like we have Vanguard, we have all these other battalions that exist that have these once per game. These units can do this thing, which is arguably more than just a passive effect, right? But everybody ignores them because they're too weak. But if Battle Regiment gets changed, we can it does make the game more complex than it's currently being played.
I'm all in favor of revamping the current battalions that aren't Battle Regiment and changing them to make them more useful. I just think seasonal battalions being available at 2 per season is fine.
Yeah, that's
I think
fine.
the core battalions are nice. They're just all overshadowed by Battle Regiment.
More
Yeah.
You get rid of that, you
point
revamp the
than
core
anything.
battalions,
Okay.
and then you add 2 seasonal every season.
We're
I think
on the
that's
same
fair.
page, yeah. Revamp the core
Yeah,
battalions.
yeah.
They're
Yeah.
a good system. They're just underutilized, and everybody just plays Battle Regiment because it's way more impactful than getting an auto run 6 once per game without spending a command point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
But
Yeah,
still
that-
issuing the command.
That would be a good video idea. So we're gonna put that one on the back burner. So we'll get to it
Yep.
eventually.
It'll be cooler for when we're going up to a GHB and we run out of things that are relevant because the GHB is about to change everything. So
Yeah, probably
Cool.
next year sometime because I still I've been getting a lot of requests for the doing a radar chart video, just talking about the state of every army in
yeah.
3rd edition. I think that would be really fun to do. So we'll probably
That's
do that
true,
one
yeah,
first.
yeah.
And we got
Yeah.
book reviews to
Yeah.
do. We still have to
I think
record.
don't we see GHB just before LVO? I think LVO is like the testing ground
Yeah.
for that GHB
Well,
usually. Or
no,
but I mean by
we usually
GHB is
have
we get
old-
points.
It'll
Points.
probably be January. We'll get another update, most likely.
Yeah,
let's see.
Probably right before LVO, maybe 2 weeks before, mid-January.
2-3
something like
weeks.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So that wraps up Battlescroll for every other army. Let's talk about Stormcast because we have to. Because why? They're okay. Vanquishers, S tier. They're
Yes.
finally there.
Yep.
The biggest rags to riches story in the history of Age of Sigmar. A unit went from the worst unit in the game to call it a comeback. It's incredible. I love this unit. They look great. They play great. This season they're good, and I think this 110 thing has cemented them as S tier even after they get rid of bounty hunters. So, what do you guys think?
Oh,
Yeah.
100% agree.
Easily.
I love how they look. They're Thunderstrike, which makes them because the face of the game was Liberators for the longest time, and they were the face of our army because they were the only unit you would take as cheap battle line tax.
Yep.
Changing that to Vanquishers is such like a breath of fresh air. I'm so happy about
Yep.
it.
My big issue is that they're cheaper. I wish that they had just landed at 115.
No, I'm fine with
Making the
110.
same price.
No,
I know
I
I'm
you
think it
are.
makes more sense.
That's my
no,
opinion.
they deserve to be.
Updates.
No, I think they
I-
deserve to be at 110.
Yeah.
If they had better abilities, I would say sure. But they are just strictly worse. They were strictly worse than Liberators without bounty hunters.
Yeah.
Taken into the equation.
Now it's much more
So-
even because that 4-up save matters.
And we said that in our
We
original
can't.
review when Paul and I did the tome review was like, oh sorry, Paul, James and I did the tome review was that Vanquishers are strictly worse than Liberators. We have no idea why they're worth 125 when they have this incredible niche. And for that matter, if Vindictors went down to actually 120 or 115, the same as Liberators, that would be a very interesting choice for Stormcast.
Yeah.
Do I choose this unit that's kind of a more like an anvil unit with a grand hammer or some mortal wounds with not
Yeah.
that much damage?
So let's talk about break down some things here. They are the cheapest battle line, which I think by itself that is an S tier almost, very close even by itself.
Very close.
Because that's
Really
what Liberators were, right? They were the cheapest battle line, therefore S tier. We are an army
Yes.
that wants the absolute cheapest battle line possible. 5 models wide screen is perfect for our army. It can be revived with call for aid. All of these things I think call it S tier. But then, in addition to that, it's actually a good unit, right?
Yeah.
Thunderstrike
Yes.
gives it access to 7-inch Scions if you have a Lord Imperator, which not every list will. But if you have one, you're going to use Vanquishers in every list now anyway. You might as well get extra advantage of it with a Lord Imperator.
Slap in the bounty hunters and have them kill a screen.
It makes
'cause turn
Celestial
one-
Vindicators playable.
I think so
Celestial
too.
Vindicators, yeah.
Yeah, we even before this change, we were talking about some kind of Grand Hammer Vanquisher 4-drop list with Lord Imperator, using 4 different Scion possible drops, using the free blessed weapons effectively. So this, yeah, I think Celestial Vindicators becomes maybe not good, but
Interesting.
playable,
Yeah.
for sure. their Blaze of Glory is a little bit better, and this shouldn't be ignored, like, because we all know Blaze of Glory is a consistent source of damage in the army, and going from 2 dice to 3 dice with this unit is huge.
Yes,
Not
yeah.
really. It's not actually
No,
going to
it's
do that much more
15
damage,
dice,
but
though.
if the
It
unit
It'll make a
pushes it
difference
over an
across 3
average of
units.
2.
if the
Yeah.
unit is just there to get in the way and take punches and then die, this is better than a Liberator because you're going to roll more dice for Blaze of Glory. And if you're playing Hallowed Knights, you fight on death, you're going to do more damage than a Liberator would do. And these things matter, right? It adds up for little bits here and there. When they cost 10 points more than Liberators, this was not worth considering. But now that they're the cheapest unit and they happen to have this ability, it's worth pointing out that it is a nice bonus. And their damage is good, like legit. 5 Vanquishers will wipe out a screen of 10 ghosts by themselves, which is really, really useful. Right now with Bounty Hunters, that's possible. Next season, not so much. We'll see what the next season brings, but without Bounty Hunters, their damage is not nearly as impressive. They go to not killing a basic 10 wound 4-up save unit reliably, so we'll see what happens there. But even if they don't do good damage, the fact that they're the cheapest screen makes them good, right?
Yeah. Vanquishers are a good way to get a sneaky head-to-head out the gate on your turn 1, frankly.
Yeah, if you're trying to delete screens, sneaky head to head
'cause
out. Yep.
Turn 1, like, you can't really drop Annihilator sometimes. Sometimes armies are really wrapped up and they make you go first. So why not just kill a screen? Super easy. It's nice.
We get this question all the time, and we're going to get it even more now. So maybe I'll even clip this part here. You should not use Vanquisher as reinforced. It's not that it's a bad unit, because 220 points and it does a ton of damage. If you're fighting like anything with 10 or more models, and if you have Bounty Hunters, you're going to do a ton of damage. The problem is, once you get up to 220 points, you could almost have Grand Hammers or Fulminators or something that does good damage against everything. And Vanquishers don't really have anything like a block of 30 Witch Elves that they want to kill, or a block of 30 Bladegeist Revenants. People are typically running smaller units than this because of Bounty Hunters right now. So ironically, their strength in Bounty Hunters is keeping the meta from getting to a point where they would be even better. So right now, it's not worth using them reinforced, even though they would gain access to the Musician to gain a 5-up rally and the Banner to get, I think, like +1 Bravery or something.
I think it's just +1 Bravery.
Yeah,
it's +1 Bravery.
I think we even said this in our original review. A lot of our Redeemers aren't worth reinforcing for this reason. Is unless you plan on making them extremely tanky anvils with like Gardas and a Castellant and like a bunch of defensive buffs. Because anything you want to use offensively at that point, you might as well use a dedicated offensive unit, like a Fulminator or an Annihilator.
And next season, they won't be able to fight in 2 ranks anyway.
Yeah.
So it's a double-edged, not great.
So they're still bad. Go ahead,
You
James.
also lose.
I wish they gave them that errata for Chaos Knights. Like Chaos Knights have that rule on their War Scroll that lets them fight in 2 ranks. Just give them that and an errata or something. That would make them playable. But probably not. So.
Well,
like, we
10
wouldn't
units
reinforce
a
them
little
anyway, so
better.
it doesn't matter. Yeah. I fix their banner. Like I don't know why the banner is only available in like units of 10. It's so stupid.
It doesn't make sense because the kit supports building 2 banners with a box of 10 models and 2 musicians. So you can do this.
Yeah.
I just don't know why. So
actually,
it's not like it would be OP.
I will write to AOS FAQ about this because I'm like the kit helps you make 2 banners. Like why is this like a 10 model rule thing? Just make it 5 models.
It would be super strong if you lose 2 models, it's a 5-up. Like it's not that crazy. It's not like it's like a 30 model unit that you're rallying on a 5-up.
Yeah. No,
or it's Vanguard.
The horn I could get. Like the horn, like fine. You'd only want to make it available at 10. Fine, cool. But the banner, just like the Vindictors have it, they should just have it.
It'll almost never get used with 5 models. Like a 5-up rally, you're not gonna really use it, right?
Yeah, it's not that crazy to have. Why not just have it?
Just have it. Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Whatever.
Not a balance reason. It's an oversight. It's got to be, right?
Yeah, it's just
like Prosecutor Prime's not having grand weapons. It's got to be an oversight.
Yeah, I mean, no. So that's like an inverse of the thing. The
kit doesn't
wrote
support
the rules of the
it.
prosecutor to match the kit, and they made the kit to not match the rules. It's like.
So Vanquishers, welcome to S tier. I hope everybody's got 15 of them, which unfortunately means you have to buy 2 boxes. Those geniuses, they got us.
Well, join our painting contest. We'll get you another one if you.
Yeah, we'll get you another.
Yeah, if you're a good painter, you have a pretty good chance of winning a box of Vanquishers. They seem to be a common prize.
Knew getting 30 wasn't a bad idea, guys.
You're ahead of the meta once again, James. All right, so if Vanquishers have changed and they're S tier, where does that leave Liberators? Let's take a look at the poll real quick. Looks like majority of people think they're still S tier or A tier.
A tier, yeah.
Right, like plurality say that, and I regret to be the bearer of bad news here, but we're putting Liberators down in C tier because their main niche was being the cheapest battle line. They are no longer the cheapest battle line, and that is so important. It can't be stressed how important that is. The specific niche that Liberators fall into now is that you have a 3+ save, effectively. Not really, because you can't save stack it to 2+. And when does a 3+ save come in handy? Against bounty hunters, never. You're just gonna die, right? Like it's almost negligible. It comes in handy against light shooting, light damage. You get charged by like wind chargers charge into you, for example. That kind of thing, a 3+ save can make a difference. And that's not a very good niche. They are the best at it, right? Like they're better than Vindictors, which are basically doing the same thing but worse now because they're more expensive. But basically, since the baseline choice is Vanquishers, you have to say, am I going to spend 5 points to lose Thunderstrike, which means no 7-inch Scions, to lose their good damage output, which is a nice tactical tool, lose better damage Fight on Death if you're playing with Gardas and Hallowed Knights, lose higher Blaze of Glory damage. You just lose so many things in order to get +1 save, and you spend 5 points to do it. Which, yeah, that's not a good trade. There is a significant gap now between Vanquishers and every other Redeemer unit, which is very unfortunate because I've got a lot of Liberators and I got to get more Vanquishers now, apparently.
I think it'll be C tier for this season. I don't think they fall off quite that hard after the season, just because Bounty Hunters is making things super bad. It's making it really bad right now.
Yeah, like you could, if you do want to occupy that niche, what I could see happening in a lot of lists is if you have like a 30-point buffer, and you have 3 units of Vanquishers, you could reasonably upgrade one of them to Liberators to guard like a flank more sturdily than say Vanquishers would.
If the meta's allowing for it. Right now, though,
also like it's like because Liberators also stand up well to things like, you know, if like a Kinerai unit, like a really light harassing unit deep strikes and tries to get you off that objective to quickly sneak it away from you, Liberators can hold it well because they have access to like mortal wounds. They're like one of the only Redeemers that, well, other than Vindictors, I think they have access to mortal wounds.
I was gonna say they do a little bit more.
Well, against Chinerai, I'd rather have Vanquishers. I'd rather have Vanks against Chinerai, right? They just murder the Chinerai every time.
Yeah, sure.
And if you Fight on Death, you do more damage. If you Blaze of Glory, it's just like, when will you want to use Liberators now? And it's like you have to, like, with Gardas, the 5-up ward stacking with a 3+ save is nice.
And a Stormkeep, because you can do 2d3 more wounds potentially.
Yeah,
I guess.
Maybe even then, Vanquishers just do the same thing, but with -1 save and then way higher damage, right? Like it's so hard to think of scenarios where you'd want to pay more points.
When you want to play the game on hard mode, that's it.
It's like, you know, it's the case for Liberators is that you got tired of using your Sequitors and you wanted to make a change.
So AOS coach saying he'd rather pay for Vindictors. I would much rather like it if Vindictors became the face of the game. Unfortunately, I just don't think their damage output is enough for like the ability for them to go to a 2-up. I just think Vindictors die much the same to the things that are coming out in the game right now. And a real choice of Vindictors would be if they were 5 points more than Liberators. And we've said this like multiple times. It's always should have been 110, 115, 120, 125. Sequitors being 125.
Yeah, the cannot be save stack to a 2-up isn't actually that big of a deal.
No, like, it almost never comes up.
Extremely few situations.
Yeah, and you will still struggle to actually kill things with Vindictors. 130, just like with Vanquishers and Liberators, because if you want a 3-up save, I would rather take a Liberator, and if I want a cheaper battle line Vanquisher, it's between them.
Independent, they can hold stuff just that much a little better than Vanquishers, and they can get there, but right now it's just not happening.
It's like it'd be 10 points. Like at 120, I would seriously consider.
If it was last season, I'd say Liberators would still be maybe an A tier, just because they held monsters better.
I would agree with that, but Bounty Hunters is too brutal. Obviously, we're going to revisit all this with the new season. We'll see what happens. We'll see how crazy the new rules are going to be.
And Rasta going down with like if our other Redeemers like Vindictors and Sequitors took a cut and coupled with the Andrasta thing, I could see a list around them in that sense.
We didn't include that. Not only was it the Vexillor and the Arcanum, but Vindictors didn't take a points drop.
No, but they did take a tier drop. Let's talk about Vindictors. At the start of the season, we thought, Bounty Hunters is going to be impactful on this unit. They were A tier in the initial review. That was a good segue, by the way. I'm going to take credit for that. It was good. And we thought Bounty Hunters would make them worse, but not as bad as it did. But man, Vindictors feel bad right now. Bounty Hunters just chew right through them. Spending more points to just die and accomplish nothing. Because Vanquishers are now really, really good, there's no reason to spend 20 points and get Vindictors instead, right? Like, spending 5 points to take Liberators doesn't make sense. Spending 20 points to take Vindictors really doesn't make sense. So we're bumping them down to D tier for the remainder of the season.
It just they're somewhere between like a Vanquisher and a Liberator, where they like the defense and they like the damage, but they're not doing either of those things cost
Well,
effectively.
they're a Liberator that has the Thunderstrike keyword. That's pretty much what
Yeah,
they
well,
are.
also they do have mortal wounds on sixes, which I
Yeah.
guess matters,
I mean-
but they just don't have that critical mass of attacks for that to
Yeah,
be really useful.
I'd rather have 4 attacks than 2 attacks that sometimes do a mortal wound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even
Yeah,
if we were to reevaluate next season, what if we had the meme, like right now everyone's like, oh, Galatian veterans, the survivors of Galad become heroes. So we have the foot hero meta. What if like the new battalion was GV do extra damage to foot heroes? Could we get the tactic from our book and have Vindictors accomplish it?
Yeah, that'd be funny.
Yeah,
they're-
but like Vindictors, I feel like 120 is the sweet spot for them.
It would just
like, if
take
they
a
were
lot for
120
Vindictors to be good at 130.
Yeah, they're not worth
I
a
don't know.
20-point upgrade over Vanquishers. A 10-point upgrade situationally.
I think
sure.
they're fine at 130 if Bounty Hunters goes away, because they still have that niche of being able to save stack a 2+ big block, drop it in 7 inches with Scions, charge it in with Gardas, get a 5-up
It'd be a
ward on.
tar
It's a
pit.
huge tar pit. That's a nice niche. I would like that to be 120, but it would be playable at 130 still.
Mm-hmm.
But Sequitors 145 is. Yeah, Sequitors are not good. Sequitors need to be
Sequitors are
125.
not good. Yeah, don't build don't take Sequitors.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with Vindictors next season. I haven't actually had a chance. I think I played 1 game with Vindictors in it, and I regretted that choice. I was like, I'd rather have 15 points here. Get a Triumph or a different endless spell or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe if Andrasta's like points cuts are significant next season after Bounty Hunters goes away, Vindictors sort of come back.
They could, yeah. Yeah,
I would like to see. I would like to
Andrasta.
see. Yeah, I would like to evaluate that, but right now I don't think it's worth playing them. They're cool though. I really wish they were face of our faction rather than Liberators.
Vanquishers are the best models, but Vindictors are pretty close. They're pretty sick.
Mm-hmm.
Shield Annihilators are up next, and I think they remain in C tier. I was really excited when I first saw them dropping down to their original Dominion prices. And I remember when they previewed this unit, initially people were like, whoa, it's got to be like 240 points. It's got a 2-up save. And I remember thinking like, their damage actually isn't that good. Like probably like 180, 160, something like that. And then Dominion came out, it's exactly what they were. And then for some reason they bumped them up in the 3rd edition book. And I never really understood that because they never felt like they were doing 180 points worth. And they still feel that way, especially now that there's a lot of competition for their role. If Grandhammers didn't exist, Annihilators would be good. But Grandhammers do exist, and you can only drop 1 unit in with Lord Imperator per turn. So it's not going to be Shield Annihilators, right? Like, what list do these guys fit into that you couldn't find 60 points to bring Grandhammers or Vanquishers instead and use that drop? And if you're not using 7-inch Scions, you're not
that's
using
my
these guys.
concern. Yeah, that's my concern. So this thing, because here's the thing, right? If all the other paladins that we have -2 rend. Grandhammers, Retributors, Protectors, Decimators. This is the only paladin unit with -1 rend 2 damage, which means it's meant to go up against lighter targets, like infantry. But in that sense, I would much rather just drop a Vanquisher unit in their face and try to accomplish the same thing.
Yep.
So this niche is it can do mortals to heavier targets, but not totally kill them, or it can wipe out a lighter unit for 180 points. Now it's good. The unit is just good, but I would much rather have defined roles, like killing cheaper targets with Vanquishers, expensive targets with Grandhammers. And at 180, I think the only niche this unit fills is if you're running other dedicated hammers for bigger things, think things like Fulminators or Dragons or something, or Chariots even. This thing can like harass the enemy flank by being on a 2-up save and just being a pain in the butt for them to be something that they have to deal with in order to not keep taking charged mortal wounds every turn.
Well, yeah, and to piggyback off of that though, I think it gets ironically, I think these units match up closest to Chariots. They're basically like Chariots. They harass with charge mortals. They're on Chariots are on -1 to hit when they charge, but this one's on a 2-up save. But there's less wounds here. There's imperative tax. There's opportunity cost of not dropping something like Grandhammers. I think that or Vanquishers even. I think that this competes against the Chariot, and the Chariot just kind of does it better.
Agreed.
The thing that Shield Annihilators do that none of the other units in the book do is that they reinforce, and then they become 18 wounds on a 2-up, which can issue commands to itself unlike a Chariot, and doesn't have monster like Storm Drakes, unfortunately. But if this unit gets cheap enough, that becomes viable, right? 360 for 6 of these guys is a little too expensive. Maybe like 320 would probably do it, and that's the point where I would be like, you know what? I'm actually going to bring this unit, and it's going to be a significant drop in a Grand Hammer type list, right? Because I want a defensive pinning drop rather than an offensive or screen clearing drop with Vanquishers.
But Daniel mentioned, right, it's competing with the Chariot. And unlike the Chariot, this thing carries an imperative tax on it.
Yes.
The other like problem I have, this is like more out of game experience. It's not really like a complaint on the unit. It's like anything you drop into the enemy, like I've played Shield Annihilators in my the one version of my Annihilator list that I had before this. I ran 1 unit of those because I replaced the 3rd Grand Hammer. Because the idea was if it's going to drop in and die and kill a lighter target anyway, might as well use 200 points. This was before Vanquishers got their big Bounty Hunter upgrade.
Right.
A 2-up save doesn't matter because it's just 9 wounds.
Yeah.
You know, if people hit you with like a -2 rend 3 damage weapon, one of those saves missed is a guy dead. And most armies have like some kind of like close range mortal wound output that they can usually deal with a unit like this pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying. You want to reinforce this unit because taking 7 mortal wounds or whatever would deal crippling damage if it was only 3 models. But if it's 6, then they stick around. They can get revived with Andrasta. They can get revived with the banner. They can maybe even rally some models back. That's their niche. But the problem with that obviously is that it's 6 models and you have coherency issues and they're only 1-inch range. So you want them to be veterans, which means you want to be Knights Excelsior to make them battle line. But then if they're veterans, they take bonus damage from bounty hunters, which makes their 2-up save almost like a liability. You're spending points for a defensive unit that is going to take double damage, at least, right? Sometimes, at most double damage. So it's just a weird mix of things. So this is a unit. These points are good, but not in this season. Not yet. Next season.
Not yet. I would say next season they at least go up a tier in my book. I will at least try them because I like their look. They look cool looking models, man. Look at that.
Yeah, and I want to try that. And the one thing they have on Chariots is they can get into angles and they can assassinate small heroes.
It's very hard to prevent deep strikes against like that small circle.
Infinite threat range pinning unit. That is a good niche, but it just can't be utilized yet because it's so vulnerable to bounty hunters.
But I can definitely see a list where I combine them with like fulminators, for example, or even dragons.
No. Dan and I talked about this. Just not now. Give it like 2 months, and I think they'll at least be B, if not higher.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm down for them going up.
Yeah, I was happy about this change though. It never made sense how their points went up from Dominion. I actually like it. They went 180 and not 190 because technically that's like giving us 10 points back on the Imperative, which is what it was last when Dominion came out.
It was 165.
Imperative 150, please. He's so priced. For real. 175 is too much.
I mean,
160, man.
I think 175 is too much. Yeah. If he had -2 rend, I'd be like, okay, fine, but no. I think 150, 160 would be fine.
So there's nothing wrong with Annihilators. The problem is that any list that would want to use them right now, it's just hard to find current lists that want to use them. So wouldn't that make this a D tier unit by our definition? Like C is kind of like it's playable, but which list wants to play it?
Well, we could use them in a Hammers list right now.
Yeah, you could use it. So how we build our list usually is like we take Vanquishers, we take Shooters, and we take Paladins. If you took a list that say like Hammers of Sigmar, where you take Fulminators as battle line instead. Maybe you take a couple of Chariots for your screen. You take Shooters. You have no Redeemers. This is not a Vanquisher list. Yes. You could take a couple units of Annihilators and then just like drop them on flanks and harass people that way.
Yeah, what about like
I posted that list. I posted that list in our Discord.
We've been talking about it.
So what about like our Dauntless Hunters list that uses Grand Hammers? What if you swap the Grand Hammers for Shield Annihilators, the Hunters for Vanquishers, just to shave a lot of points, and then you bring as much shooting as possible. So kind of this like, pretty much like a Nylon Grande plays, but you play defensive.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was the other thing.
The idea is if you don't have any dedicated hammers in your list, don't make this unit your main hammer. Always try to upgrade this to a Grand Hammer if you can, if you want to play Annihilators.
If we could ever use this. If we could ever have Chariots as battle line, I would 100% run a Sniper Nest with Chariots, causing chaos.
I'm actually thinking about a list with like even Stormdrake Guard and Shield Annihilators now.
Yeah, as a pinning unit.
Because it's like they buy time for the Stormdrake Guard to get into position because Stormdrake Guard have lost that pre-game move or whatever. The hero phase move.
It's so expensive.
Hero phase move.
So expensive.
It is pretty expensive of a combo.
But hey, that's our book. It's
our book.
So it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. So moving on. Maybe next time. There's a typo there. I should say Annihilators, not Vanquishers. Oops. Nobody noticed. Nope. All right, moving on. Praetors. Still bad. And the reason they're bad has nothing to do with their points, because you can make these guys like 120 and they finally become playable. So like you really
need to be battle line. It's that simple.
Yes.
I don't even think that would do it.
No, it would. If a lord is your general, these things become battle line. Why not? Every single faction has battle line bodyguard.
Yeah, battle line bodyguards.
Well, it's because I don't think it's an efficiency issue. I think it's a purpose issue.
No, I think it can be an efficiency issue. If I'm playing Celestial Vindicators, like I don't necessarily want to take 3 Redeemers always every time, even in a faction like Hello Knights. Yep. Sometimes I just want 2.
Yep.
Being able to shave points, and like if this was like 145, I don't know, 145 is kind of expensive. It's basically the same cost as Sequitors. Making this battle line in a say Karazai list, for instance, is pretty huge.
Yeah.
So that's the bigger issue, is like, when do you want to use this thing, and does making a battle line, like, it makes it better in the situations where you want to use it, but those situations are way too rare, right? Like, what hero wants to use this? Because it
Artists?
The closest thing is Gardas or Lord
Gardas
Imperator
can be sniped now.
list.
Like Lumineth have the power to snipe Gardas. Remember that, right? Like Lumineth have the power to do it. What's the other one? Zinch kind of does.
Zinch
so like I kind of like a battle line unit that I can take in Hallowed Knights that can protect Gardas.
There's still a lot of issues with this unit, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that both the hero and the Praetors have to be on the table in order for this ability to activate is a big deal. Which means the fact that they have Thunderstrike for 7H Scions is never going to matter. It's irrelevant.
No, it doesn't.
Their damage is pathetic, right? So these guys are basically Spirit Host level of, well, they do more damage than Spirit Host, but like they're about as impactful in terms of damage as the Spirit Hosts, right? They're not there to do damage. They're there to bodyguard. And unlike Spirit Hosts, they don't bodyguard every hero around them. It's just one. It's the one that starts on the battlefield. So the use case for these guys is specifically, you're running a Gardas list and you're willing to spend more points than Vanquishers, 35 points over a current Vanquisher squad, in addition to the Vanquishers you need for Battle Line, which could be where your fix comes in. And then in a lot of matchups, it's useless. Straight up useless. That's just still terrible, right? Like, it's not... Yeah. I think if these...
Well, so the idea is, like, you make people spend more resources on trying to remove Gardas, because there's lots of factions that can hit him. Like Seraphon can hit Gardas with a lot of mortal wounds.
We talk about this all the time, though. If they're killing Gardas, we're winning the game.
I play a Gardas list. Yeah. I play a Gardas list.
Like, what I'm saying is, like, the 5-up ward, you can get unlucky. Like, and like, I'm not saying it's a good niche. I'm not saying like they're like A tier, like you have to take Spirit Host because Nighthaunt revolves so much around their heroes, right? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you want to make them playable, you maybe drop them to like 140, 135 and make them battle line. So you can shave off that Liberator.
That is a good change.
Like the way to make them usable, like, in my opinion, not that usable. If you want to make this like B or C tier, you would make them battle line.
I would still, the biggest change for them would be being able to bind them to a hero without having to be on the battlefield at all. Because sometimes you want to
just remove that ability together. Just cut that restriction out so that if they're within range, they can bodyguard any hero just like the Spirit Hosts do.
I don't understand why they did the Soul Bond thing. Did they think like our heroes living would be too powerful?
Well,
like
it's fluff, yeah. And you know what? I like having a different bodyguard like that. I like having this soul bonding concept. It just, the rule doesn't work as well as it ought to.
Oh no, I know why they. No, I know why they did it. It's because they also gave out a 5-up board. Technically, they're the only bodyguard that when you make the roll and it's a 5-up board. Yeah, that's why. Because if it could bodyguard every hero, it would be like all your heroes outside of Hallowed Knights having a 5-up board.
Yeah.
They should rewrite the rule here and like make it, because they're supposed to be like the private bodyguard soul bonded to this hero. So make it like, I don't know, while the hero and these guys are within 3 inches of each other, they get +1 to wound, both of them.
Yeah, they should still be able to bind.
They should be an offensive.
No, I'm okay with the. I'm okay with the binding thing. Just make them battle line. Like it'd be really good for the big dragons for sure.
With no rule changes, I want to see 120 points, battle line, 1 unit can be battle line in your army, period. No multiples, right? Just 1 unit. Do you have to give them increased range to make them worthwhile?
No,
keep them at 1 inch.
No, keep it 1. 1 inch is fine.
So they're just a bodyguard. They're not there for damage.
It's not very thematic for halberds, but when are you ever reinforcing this unit? Like, let's be real.
Halberds have a long history of being 1 inch in Age of Sigmar for some reason.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna hold the, like, here's the whole thing. I'm gonna hold it like this and just chop right in front of me.
No, because what I want to do is I want to play Karazai and Celestial Vindicators.
Yep.
If you give me 145 point battle line that can protect Karazai with like giving him a 5-up ward effectively
shaving 110 points off that list would go a long way. Yeah. I'd rather they be usable in a more list than that. But yeah. Anyway,
Hey,
still remain in
it's
D
fine.
tier.
List is a-
They are lacking
Moving
purpose and have to get much cheaper.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Vigilors. Again, I was really excited about them changing. Can't find a use for them still. Even at 170, their damage is just not good enough. Once you're up to that point where you're not buying Redeemer units and you're spending like Chariot points and you're starting to creep up on like Judicator points, just bring Chariots and Judicators instead, right?
I was about to say, to clarify, 170 is fine for this profile because other armies have 170
Yeah.
shooters at this profile, but
Yes.
in the context of Stormcast,
not
so
good enough. Yeah, not good enough. They do have Thunderstrike, right, which means they can have a 7-inch Scions, but this unit shouldn't be going in melee because their melee is not very good. They can Blaze of Glory, just like Vanquishers. So
I mean,
why
okay,
are
is
you
their
spending
melee
more
not
points
very
for
good?
screens?
Or is it? Yeah.
Their damage is not good. So
Yeah, it's somewhere between a Vanquisher and a.
it's
what are we
it's
talking
a
about? Judicator.
Vanquisher. It's a Vanquisher fighting. The combined shooting and melee of a Vigilor is just Vanquishers fighting. So
Mhm.
the
Yes.
reason, if this unit ever sees play, it's not because of its damage, it's not because of its melee, it is because of the +1 hit ability. And that ability is really, really awkward to use right now. There's a lot of downsides. You need to bring like 2 or 3 of these units to get that ability off reliably enough, and that's a lot of points. That's like you could just bring a Taurolon instead for those points, right?
Yep.
And the fact that these guys aren't battle line unless you bring a Night Judicator and make it your general is a big downside. If it was like any Thunderstrike hero or just generic battle line, that would probably be better.
Do you think Night Judicator should have gone down for a unit that does 6 damage?
Yeah,
He
it should have.
Remember in our initial review we underranked him.
We said he's 205 because he's spammable.
He's spammable.
That's
That's
what-
the
that's what-
issue.
He's spammable, the Gryph-hounds, he comes with the screen.
Super long ranged, high accurate damage has to be expensive. It just has to.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. Especially in a leader slot,
Yeah.
because you could, if he was cheaper,
Mhm.
you could make a list that's just long strikes and Night Judicators, and that's not a fun list to play against.
No, because you can also
that's fair.
Mortal Wound Bomb.
That said, 205, just make them 190, maybe 200. That
Yeah.
would probably be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
If
I mean,
like,
yeah, not a
Battle
significant
line
change.
is
Maybe like a
rough.
10-point difference. or
small
something. Yeah.
small change to him would be good. But yeah, Vigilor damage is not exceptional, right? Just breaking down the numbers here, at shooting you get 11 shots at 3s -1. For 20 more points you get double that with crossbows. They don't have rend, but the main, the big crossbow has rend 2. But just the rend doesn't make up for it. And if you're charging Vigilors into melee, I don't think you're doing it right. Like their damage in melee is like, it's
This
Vanquishers
is like,
in their
okay,
worst.
I'll tell you, it's such
it's
a really
Liberator
weird
damage.
niche.
It's
It's
bad.
like, am I attacking Illuminate that have multiple minuses to hit, or am I attacking something that shuts off commands? And that's when I would want this. But I don't know if that justifies a troop slot.
Well, that might
for
justify
170.
one if it was a reliable
Yeah,
source of
justify
+1
one.
hit, but it's not.
Yeah.
You have to
It's
bring
not.
two
Oh,
Because it has
units
to do
make
damage.
reliable.
It's not hit.
Yeah.
It's not a ping.
Has to
Yeah.
go through the save. Which is what I
Yeah.
was going to ask. What if these guys had like 1 attack each and an extra pip of rend, so they always got the +1 to hit a lot easier anyway?
They have.
I would just give them like if they hit you, like if
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, that would be the
No.
best option.
Make
for
it
sure.
start of the
Yeah.
shooting phase. Pick an enemy unit within 18 inches. Your army gets +1 hit against it until the end of the turn. Simple. No
Sure.
hits required. You can even add some restriction like this unit has to shoot the unit you picked, something like that. But make it easy. Don't make it a dice roll. Don't make it a dice roll based on your opponent's defenses as well, which is even worse, right? That's the problem with this unit. And the only way
I've-
to make it, you have to make it so cheap. It have to be like 150, and then it just becomes spammable, and that's not
Yeah,
good.
and that's
Yeah.
not
So
fun.
this
that's
Yeah.
not fun. Yeah. that's not
needs
fun.
a rule change to make that +1 hit more reliable.
Yeah.
I would, yeah. I have given this unit a lot of thought because I own a bunch of them because I'm making them the basis of the conversions for all of my shooters. And I think
That's
the
their
thing to
role.
make this, yeah. At 170, I would totally play them if they were battle line and that +1 to hit effect could trigger off of a Thunderbolt volley. Because the fact that it's only in the shooting phase irritates me.
Oh yeah,
Well-
it doesn't do anything for you for Unleash Hell either, which is stupid.
Yeah. So just make it whenever they shoot a target, you get +1 to hit against that target. Then I would totally take a unit of these.
It's worth pointing out these guys make great allies because the ability doesn't require
Yeah.
Stormcast Eternals to get +1 hit. So
That's
if you
true.
can just 24-inch threat range off the rip, shoot something, give your whole army +1 hit against that thing. So other armies might start slotting these guys in. I could definitely see them in cities, maybe Seraphon, maybe
I
Lumineth.
see a lot of armies try to
No,
get
not
like
Lumineth.
Reavers, for example, at 170. So it makes sense.
This could see
They're
play.
basically like Reavers.
I
without
saw
the
a unit
running.
of them in a KO army that was really cool.
Well, they're like Reavers, but they do half the damage. Because Reavers have 10 models, not 5.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Oh man, I
Reavers
forgot.
also
We're
Yeah,
just
no, yeah.
here.
Because
Feels bad.
these guys have 10 shots. Reavers have 20.
That's right.
Yeah.
Reavers also
Yep.
ignore unleashable penalty.
Yep.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. But it's a situational unit. I hope they keep improving it. It seems
Yeah,
like
it's
they.
just it's just such a weird unit. Like,
Yeah.
I just find it weird. It's like,
Just
yeah.
use
If
crossbow
they said
adjudicators.
adjudicators are going to Legends and this is the new adjudicator, I would be okay with it.
God, I hope we're not forced to use this thing eventually.
Oh gosh.
Like, I hope our standard doesn't become so low that this is the acceptable unit for our army, you know? Like, oh man, that would be a rough state of affairs. That would be like 2nd edition all over again. Aventus. Let's argue about goat monsters.
Oh gosh.
So, I've put here that he remains an A tier, but that is... It depends on how good you consider a Taurolon to really be, right? If we look at the base Taurolon right now in this season, because there's no battle plans that require leaders, and there's other more efficient things you could be doing with lists, a Taurolon's looking somewhere like a B. Like, I think we overrated it in our Season 1 review. It's not an A tier unit. It's more like a B tier unit. Like, it's playable. It's good in the list it's good in. It could even define those lists, which might bump it up to A. But they're not doing too hot right now. And I think that's just a population thing. Like, it's not popular to play 5-round shooting lists right now, so they don't get a lot of results. It's more fun to just play 9 dragons or you know, even like a standard Hallowstrike castle is more fun to play than playing with a Taurolon. That said, I think Aventus is an A tier unit, and that's up for debate. At 270 points, he's now cheaper than the standard Taurolon, and the Taurolon was working pretty well for the list that it was working in, and now you save 15 points, gain healing, gain rend, in exchange for all of your enhancements that this guy could possibly take. And you have to be Hammers of Sigmar.
I mean, he is, yeah.
Being Hammers of Sigmar is not a big deal, because almost every list I could think of with the Taurolon was Hammers of Sigmar already. So gaining a spell cast and saving 15 points in exchange for Scintillating Trail is not a bad deal, because the 2 spells you want a Taurolon to cast always, if you're using Dracoths, for example, Mystic Shield, Celestial Blades.
Celestial Blades.
And if you're playing Great Hunt, you want it to cast probably like, I don't even know what you'd play. You'd do in that one. Probably Thundershock, maybe? Lightning Blast, something like that.
Thundershock and Chain Light, yeah.
Might take a spell enhancement in that one, maybe. Perhaps. But Taurolons in general aren't looking too hot right now. Next season is definitely going to switch things up. This is the first season in a long time where there hasn't been a battle plan where leaders control things. I don't think we're going to get 2 seasons like that in a row, so I'm expecting next season to require leader control, and that's where this guy comes back in, right? Taurolons are an excellent support piece. 270 honestly still feels a bit too much. I'd love it if this guy was 250.
I think the issue is the 12 wounds. It's like just really low wounds that can just get taken out by anything in its point range, just like that.
Yeah, and safe setting on this thing is a big opportunity cost.
Yeah, it's like, in terms of, like, I think it's got, 4 attacks at -2 rend, 2 damage, and 4 attacks at -1 rend, D3 damage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like a heavy hitter. I guess to compensate for that, they're like, it's low wounds, low damage, but it doesn't bracket. So I guess that's something.
It's in first season of 3rd edition, it was a fast flying monster that scored you 2 points per game. That was a clear niche. You don't score 2 victory points with this thing, and that makes it a little harder to run at its current point cost. So I'm hoping they keep reevaluating, especially other Sacrosanct units, and they keep dropping them in points because they're just inefficient compared to our other options.
Black Armor SC coming.
He's talking about STD. Slaves.
Okay. I was like,
we will be doing a Slaves to Darkness review, if only to open up an entirely new branch of our salt mine, where we will be fed for generations to come.
Yeah.
That book is looking really well designed in a really cool way. I don't think it's broken, but it's just well designed.
I just love reading. Yeah, like the customization. Like, I wish we had that.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Would be nice, but that's okay.
Would be nice.
We have shooting instead. That's our secret faction.
Yeah, we have shooting. That's our
Moving on.
So the regular Taurolon then, if I think Aventus changing to being cheaper than a regular Taurolon makes the regular Taurolon a lot harder to justify. The use case for it is something like you don't have any other hero that you really want to put an Arcane Tome on. or you want to give this thing Arcane Tome and Master of Magic and Scintillating Trail, and you want to probably run like Hallowed Knights so that you can get the Gardas Aura on this thing, because it actually becomes pretty durable if you save stack on it within a Gardas Aura. It can be hard to take down. +3 to saves and a 5-up ward on 12 wounds is not hard to kill, or not easy to kill, I should say. But it's really hard to justify in any list that I'm currently using a Toralon in. So yeah, we're bumping it down to C tier. And like I said, I think it was overrated in A tier previously. It probably should have been in B. But that's the fun of doing tier
it
lists.
wasn't overrated. It's just that the meta changed as the more factions came out. Back when it came out, it was probably A. You could run it alongside dragons, and fulminators and be okay.
We also didn't predict just how prevalent the Kronspine would be. And the Kronspine eating a Toralon is game ending. So it's almost a liability right now. Maybe with the changes to the Kronspine, there's less of them and it's not as big of a deal, but yeah, it feels bad whenever you're a Kronspine.
The problem is, like, at the end of the day, you're spending 280 points for a support hero, because this thing is not like a killer unit. Like, yeah, you'll kill some models with it eventually, because you'll have to, but it is, at the end of the day, it's a support wizard that gives you a +1 to hit, and that wizardry can be shut down by so many armies now, because we're not like an exceptionally heavy spellcasting army, that most of the time you're spending 280 points for a +1 to hit. So
yeah, the unit did not make the transition to 3rd very well, and I will say there hasn't been much power creep in 3rd edition, but there still has been some, just because the nature of the armies that are coming out. Like, first few armies in 3rd edition were not good caster armies. Now we have good caster armies. They're not as strong as they were in 2nd, so that's nice, but they're still strong enough to just shut down all our casting.
Age of Sigmar might play it though. Age of Sigmar will play like Aventus or this guy if they want to.
Yeah, well, what I like about Toralons and that style of play with the 30-inch shooting castles is, like, you just cast out of unbinding range, so you're not too fussed about it for the first round.
Yeah.
All right, Knight Relictor, another success story. Dropping 20 points has
just like we said. Just like we said it should.
120 is the value we said that we would consider playing him. His niche before was whenever you needed exactly 5 points to make a list work and you had a Lord Relictor in it, you could shave him down to a Knight Relictor and give him High Priest and more or less keep the same level of consistency with your translocation. There's obviously downsides to that. You lose the Lord range, which is really good both for prayers and spells, seeing as how the Lord Relictor in our list is usually carrying the Arcane Tome as well. That does matter. And he has a lower range for translocation. So this guy's niche is now you want to shave 25 points off a Lord Relictor, which is quite a bit, right? Like, it adds up here and there.
Yeah, it is.
Or if you want a second priest so that you can get a Divine Light or a Blessed Weapons and you don't want to spend a lot of points on that. So same niche he had before, he's just better at it. And I could actually consider running a second priest.
Yeah, it's cool. I think it's awesome.
I like this.
I would actually run this guy if I had 2 priests in a list, just to be as cheap as possible. I would do Lord Relictor on his own, just chanting Translocation, and then I'd have this guy with High Priest doing either Divine Light or Blessed Weapons. Usually Divine Light, I'd say.
I'd probably do Blessed Weapons because the range for Light, I think Divine Light is lower. I think it's 12.
If it's a Knight,
it is.
Yeah,
yep.
It's annoying.
But sorry, I meant the other way around. This guy with Translocation, Lord Relictor with Divine Light. That's what I meant. My bad.
Yep.
Because you can just
I would go with.
Because you can translocate the Lord Relictor into range to Divine Light, and then you can start unleashing all your shooting, and that seems worth it for 120 points. Cheaper than like a Knight Cantor. Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah.
Get ready for Stormcast rerolling.
Ironically enough, that combo with the Divine Light and Translocation is better than whatever the hell Vigilords are trying to do.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Once they nerf Battle Mage, this guy's probably going to be the 3rd hero of our 3-hero suite of, like, Gardas, Knight, Lord Relictor, and now Knight Relictor. And sometimes Imperator too, right? Depending on the list. Yeah. Good job. Knight Relictor, awesome. You did it. 120. I think 120 is fine. He doesn't have to go any lower, right?
Yeah.
No.
120 is 120 is fine.
Great.
With our prayer lore, 120 is fine.
Yeah.
So
not every unit has to be S tier.
Yeah.
You got to keep in mind he's got the Relic Maul tool.
Oh yeah. 3 attacks on 3s and 3s, rend 1, 2 damage. It's a big hitter. Big enough.
Never seen that profile before.
Big enough weapon to get its own article dedicated to it, because it has literally nothing else on the War Scroll.
Wait, hey, hold on. It stops invocations.
All one of the predatory invocations in the game.
Yeah, all one of the predatory invocations.
And only if it's within 3 inches of him. And not even. No, it doesn't stop it. On a 4+, you ignore it.
You ignore it, yeah.
Yeah, you ignore it. Oh man.
Christ.
Anyways.
Oh, man, I
Okay.
hope this guy gets the best War Scroll in the next edition. He deserves it.
Oh dude.
Indrasta, 40 points cheaper. Pretty big drop.
Womp womp.
Is it enough?
Like we said, I was very skeptical, Paul. I will take the L. I said this unit can never be below 300, and Paul said it should always be around 270, 280.
I went even lower. I said 240. 240 would make her
240.
playable.
Okay.
If Light of
Yeah, I would
Valtharion can be
pl- I would
240,
play her
this,
at
this can be
240.
240. Yeah.
Well, so the reason I was so like skeptical because I was like, oh wow, she's such a good fighter, and then they started releasing actual fighter heroes like Light of
Right.
Valtharion, Eternus
Right.
the Black Blade,
She's a joke.
the Kato, whatever his
Kato
name is. I don't know what it's
Isakar.
called. Yeah,
Isakar.
yeah. And then I saw him like, okay, if these are what fighting heroes are nowadays, like why are all these are our fighting heroes who aren't that good at fighting with the 12 damage cap at like 325? It made no sense.
We have demigods, right? These aren't like champions of some city somewhere. These are actually forged by a god directly. These are the prime lieutenants, leaders of every faction of all of our super forged dudes, and they suck.
Yeah, like,
They're
they're not
just
even
not
demon
good.
princes. Like this is above all of that.
Yeah.
Like jeez.
D6 Spear is a big problem on this model. Okay, so let's talk about why it remains in D tier, because I think a lot of people are going to try Andrasta out, and I think they're going to have exactly the same conclusion that we're about to talk about here. Dropping Andrasta 40 points doesn't change a single thing about her rules. She does exactly the same amount of damage, she moves the exact same amount, she heals the same amount, still can't use heroic recovery in melee. Nothing changes about her War Scroll. All that changes is that you have more stuff in a list with her. And on her own, 40 points more stuff isn't much. It's not even a unit of Aether Wings, right? And Yandrasta's rule set is that she is a low damage, good durability, but not really that durable. She's still going to die to significant threats. And she's not that fast, only 12 inches, right? No crazy mobility, like run and charge and stuff. Her shooting is negligible. So, like, she's not brought for the damage. She's not brought for the durability. She is brought for her revivability, in addition to those two other things, which are just okay. So it's the revivability that's kind of make or break for her. So having more stuff in a list is good. It's a good thing. That's exactly the direction they need to take Andrasta, is to make her have more stuff to revive. So some kind of, like, Redeemer spam, Shield Annihilator, Paladin list. That's exactly what Andrasta wants to be leading with her rule set. Not on her fluff, but her rule set wants that. The problem with that is that every single unit she wants to revive right now is probably going to be a veteran, because you want those lists to be as efficient as possible. You can't be bringing 3 squads of Vanquishers and then 3 squads of Shield Annihilators and then 3 squads of Grand Hammers. Like you need some of these units to be battle lined so you can focus on shooting and mobility and support heroes and stuff like that. And if those units are veterans, well, those units happen to be veterans, they're going to be wiped out by bounty hunters before they get revived. And that's a huge, huge problem for her right now. So I think this season she remains in D tier. Next season, though, man, 10 Protectors with Cardis and Andrasta is going to be really hard for a lot of armies to take out. Really, really hard. Mm-hmm. So what do you guys think? So I think I've done a pretty good case for why she should remain in D tier. And I'm not happy about it. To be clear, I want this model to be good.
Yeah.
I'm not stoked about this.
I'm more mad. Oh no, I don't want to say mad. I mean, she's still really durable. 8 wards, 4 up ward and 8 wounds. My issue with that is 4 wards are really swingy. Like when I think of something like Light of Eltharion, who's a dedicated duelist and just does a ton of stuff, right? Compared to that, Andrasta feels like she wants to stick with her castle and not go out to hunt things, but her damage profile is designed so she wants to go out and hunt things. And her little, I reduced the monster bracket or whatever. And then so she stays in this castle protecting units that we generally don't want to reinforce. We just want to, I guess we take MSU spam and Stormkeep and try to get mortal wounds as things charge us and just avoid battle shock. Which is I guess her niche. It's she says, okay, none of y'all are taking battle shock, no matter what. I don't know, yeah. It's just very hard for her to find a niche when everything she wants to support is taking double damage these days. But yeah. Maybe next season. Yeah. It's just a mismatch of rules. I don't know what her role was supposed to be. A prime huntress that suffers from monstrous rampages? Why? Why couldn't she just be immune to that?
Her rule set should be drop the revive, give that to the Knight Vexillor with the banner, right? He just revives models every turn. And what she should be doing is just being a fast, flying, punchy hero who can't be pinned down and is totally immune to monsters. Not the damage, but the rampages. She should be exactly what the fluff has her be, right? She just busts from the ceiling, kills the general, and then books it, right? She should be a super assassin type, like Neve Blacktalon with wings, basically, is what she should be.
Yeah. It's like
And she's not.
it's like an angel assassin. Yeah, she
It would be so
looks
cool.
like an angel Valkyria essentially.
Yeah.
They tried
It'd
to
be
make
so
her a
cool.
Yeah.
centerpiece for a castle because it looks cool,
Uh,
but that's not
Yeah.
what the model should be doing. That's not fitting with the fluff, and it's not really gelling with the rest of her kit. So I
So
think
you're saying that she should basically work the way that Celestin Prime gets played, where
Yeah.
he guaranteed charges in and murders something on that turn.
based on the fluff, yeah, their roles should be
Yeah.
totally swapped. Celestin Prime should be
Well,
reviving
it's-
dudes and inspiring the team and rallying everybody for a final defense, while she should
Yeah.
be running around.
Yeah,
murdering stuff.
it's yeah. If you read the lore, that's what Prime does. Prime basically shows up. All the Stormcast get hope. They rally back. They charge wade into the enemy again. Andrasta doesn't do any of that in the lore. She just like does this like precision strikes on monsters and, like enemy heroes.
We can't really expect GW to give us an army that follows the lore, because
there's this
our
great,
army doesn't do that now.
There's this great short story with Andrasta where she takes like the head of a bloodthirster and like drops it at Sigmar's feet, almost like a cat bringing a mouse to its owner. You know, like, look what I killed. I'm so good at this. You're like, it's weird. And then like you play her on the
Can't
table and
kill a
she's like
bloodthirster.
she's sitting in the back reviving protectors. And you're like, oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
weird.
She sees like a rage bloodthirster, and then she just dies.
I will say though, I'm excited to try her at 280, especially with the Vanquisher point drops.
Yeah.
Now. If Vindictors point to 120 and she can revive Vindictors,
Yeah,
Could be
Okay.
neat.
okay, that's a lot of points now. That's a lot of points being shaved off.
I would like to see her at 240. Given her damage, I think that's fine. I would like to see, in addition to the changes to her, I think a few other units need to come down. Shield Annihilators, maybe another 10 points there. Lord Imperator needs to come down so you can make that style work, and Vindictors.
No,
needs to
yeah,
come down a
Just
little bit.
no.
Imperator comes
I
down.
don't think Shield Annihilators.
Yeah, I
need
don't
to
think
come down.
shields
I think
do.
Lord Imperator needs to come
Sure,
down.
make the
Yes.
package cheaper. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I think this can be fixed with points. Stuff like Vigilors probably can't, but this one can, because this is just about a critical mass of
Okay,
bodies.
what is the point level you would play Vigilors at? 150?
I would play Vigilors at a
Like,
point
that would
where
put
they
them
become
right between being a
spammable,
Vanquisher
and
and
I
a
wouldn't.
crossbow.
I
GDQ.
wouldn't want them to be at that point, because I want them
Really?
to get rules fixes. I want them to be functional because they're
Yes.
cool scouts that light up the way for the rest of your dudes, kind of like Tau Marker lights. I think that's what Vigilors should lean into, and not just being the cheapest, most efficient shooting unit possible.
Artorius Rex, you saying the problem is maybe represents the issue, hard to make 20 beat stick heroes unique and interesting.
Well-
Stormcast has no beat stick heroes. The closest
Karazai.
we say beat stick heroes because I guess
Karazai.
Karazai, yeah, one. Well, they're not
Most of
20.
the time it's like
they're
half
one.
a beat stick.
Yeah,
hero.
so our beat stick heroes don't compare favorably to beat stick heroes. They're not. You can't use them in that role because you'll be disappointed when they don't delete the thing you're supposed to be beat sticking. Like if Altharion goes
Right.
into a Bloodthirster, you can reasonably expect Altharion will kill him, or at least very reasonably
We'll do a lot of
survive.
damage. Yeah.
Yeah, with Bastion and things like with Bastion being our second beat stick hero, the idea is his max damage cap is 12. So you miss one die roll because you'll be like hitting on twos and twos,
And he still doesn't
and you
kill
drop 3 damage. Yeah, he still doesn't kill it enough. That's
unless
the
he
problem.
rolls favorably in the mortal wounds.
Bastion does 4 damage, so he's 16.
Oh, sorry, yeah, 16
yeah,
damage.
16.
Cap. So it's
oh,
like
yeah, so he
when you're
can't.
spending.
My bad. Yeah.
So that's the thing. When we think of like beat stick heroes and how much damage they do, they just don't do a job that our Fulminators, Dragons, Annihilators
Yeah.
couldn't do.
You want to know our beat
Well,
stick
now-
hero? It's 2 Fulminators. That's our
Yeah.
beat
Yeah.
stick.
Yeah.
12 wounds, 3
Or a
save.
unit of Grand Hammers.
It does come from the fact that we're a demigod faction. Like all of our regular people are.
Like, how do you
the
make demigods of demigods?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then the
Yeah.
other
Well-
thing, I do think that you can make a beat stick hero unique and interesting when you give it a role, like Indastra's supposed to have. She can kill
Yeah.
monsters. That's supposed to be her role. She should have rules like Altharion's rule where he does more damage to monsters. She should have that kind of thing going on. Like the spear
Yeah.
should do like flat 6 to monsters.
no,
she should have the spear in
Artorias.
combat.
Yeah. Agreed.
Stuff like that.
Like
That's how you
Artorias
make it
says, in
interesting.
concept they are. In concept they are beat stick heroes. Yes. In our army, that's why we call them beat stick, because in the concept of our army, they are beat stick heroes. Not in the context of other armies, obviously. And I still consider Bastion to be playable because I think his free command point, his Thunderbolt
yeah.
ability, his redeploy, those matter. So like
are
we need to
cool.
give them unique abilities that are cohesive. Indrasta being a prime huntress, a sort of like assassin
Cohesive.
hero, but
Yeah.
who basically just stays back and supports her castle is not very coherent. That's why I don't think she's that good.
Our heroes need to do more damage, or they need to cost less points. One of those two things.
Yes.
Or both, maybe even. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason a lot of our heroes are Rend 1. We're the demigod faction. Our
like,
basic troops are Rend
when
2.
you consider like
Well, and
a
that's
lot of people
that's
love
become my
Western
big
Front.
issue. That's become my big issue with playing this army is that the army does not represent what it's supposed to be.
To be fair, it does a lot better job at
Kind
it
of.
than
It
second
does a
edition
lot.
did.
Yeah.
No, it does, Jack. It does. The problem is that with 70 War Scrolls, they just made it really
Yeah.
bland in order to do that. They did it in the most brutalist way possible. It's like they could have made it intricate and interesting like Slaves to Darkness, but they chose the brutal, simple path.
Yeah.
Probably because most people in the design studio still consider it a starter army.
I don't
Yeah.
think that's the case. I think it's because they
I
ran
don't-
out of
yeah.
time. I think when you're designing third edition and you're writing rules for multiple factions and you got all this stuff coming down the pipeline and Stormcast are your starter army, you're designing the rules of the edition around the same time you're designing this army. Eventually, you're just going to run out of time and be like, sacrosanct, whatever, nerf a couple things here, put the same basic war scroll in the next one, jack up their points 10%, we're good, right? Like, I think it was a time constraint thing based on what I'm seeing.
Sure. I mean, whatever the outcome is, yeah.
Look at our artifacts.
Yeah, the outcome is whatever.
There's so little thought.
I mean,
put
I'm
into
not
those.
mad about it. It's just I know it's impossible to balance that many War Scrolls like
And
perfectly.
to be fair, I think it does get the like faction identity of all of our regular guys being demigods. I think we still get that because like our annihilators go
Wow.
in and they're freaking demigods, you know. So like I think we still
You guys
have
are
that
playing.
identity,
Yeah. Okay.
but you know, it does kind of the power budget has to come from somewhere. So like I'm not too
Yeah.
mad that our heroes aren't like, you know, we're never gonna have an Archeon like Karazai will never be Archeon because it just
Yeah.
doesn't work. You know,
He
and
doesn't
that's
need to
okay.
be. He just needs to be playable and flavorful
Exactly.
and
He
fun.
just needs to be.
I
yeah.
will say though, like here's the thing: if all these heroes, Celestin Prime, Bastion, and Drasta, if their attacks on their melee weapon profile went up by 2 at their current points, if they went to 6 attacks base, they
Mhm.
instantly become playable overnight.
Yes.
Because right now,
Yeah.
Kurdos, a random ghost, has the same attacks as Celestin Prime on round 2.
He has
Yep.
1 extra attack than Celestin Prime 2 round 1. Yeah.
Two.
Oh no, he
He's
has
another
no. He
melee
starts at 5
profile.
attacks. He
No,
starts
that's
at
what
5
I'm saying.
attacks.
Round
Starts at
2, he's the same
Yeah,
guy,
yeah.
but he also has extra like weird mount attacks too. But
Yeah. Plus he steals CP. Yeah. So it's like if you increase all our base beat stick hero attacks to 5 or 6, I think they become a lot more playable instead of 4.
They're a lot closer to matching how Stormcast ought to play with this edition, and I guess all we can do is hope for a 3.5 that kind of brings this faction into third edition proper, right?
3.5.
3.5.
Yes.
You know what?
I
It
think we
happened.
completed that.
Space Marines got a 3.5. It can happen with Stormcast.
Yeah, exactly. We're Space Marines, right? Everyone always says we're Sigmarines.
I don't expect that to happen till Dawnbringer.
No,
but we'll
no,
see.
I don't expect
Yeah.
it to happen at all. But it would be nice, and I want my armor of contempt.
We're so much
That's
cooler
what I
than
want.
Space Marines, though. It's not fair.
Get out of here. Arbor contempt.
Full
All
copium.
right,
That's what we
Alright.
want. 2 up save annihilators, ignoring 1 red, reducing
Yeah.
1 red. Yeah, that'd be really
Full
healthy,
copium.
I'm sure. Yeah, copium.
All right, next
Good
up
pick.
here, Karazai. We think the point chunk, although him
Nope.
and Praetors together is a nice chunk of points, like that's a 70-point drop. That's still not enough to get another squad of Vanquishers, right? So the problem with Karazai is that even when he was at his best in the
worth-
previous meta, he still isn't. He wasn't worth his points then, right? And that was at his best. Now this is a
Yeah.
much worse meta for his damage profile. Defensively, he's
He's pretty
honestly
good,
better,
actually.
but
Yeah.
worse. Like I'd say better overall, right? Because like the
Yeah.
-1 attack thing is huge into squads of Blade Geist,
Mhm.
into squads of Witch Elves, Xantharch High Snakes, and any melee horde unit, right? That has 2 attacks, 3 attacks per
Well-
model. He's great into them defensively. He still dies
I
though.
mean, he still dies to Witch Elves.
Everything
Still
does.
to Witch Elves.
So you have to build your whole
I
list
think
around
he
him.
should be cheaper than Krondis. I think
Oh, yeah,
now,
by a mile,
especially
yeah.
now that
I agree.
Krondis is actually worth 550 just because of his spell casting and
Oh, yeah.
how impactful those spells are,
Yeah.
considering what we're trying to do. I think Karazai as a
He's
pure
fine
beat
at
stick
550.
should probably have been 5 because he's unique. That's the thing.
Alternatively,
He's not taking Master of the Celestial Menagerie or something.
let me pitch this idea: 550 points, 5 up board.
Yeah, I would
Well,
pay.
yeah,
Yes.
but it's not going to happen.
That's all he's lacking, right? Is the fact that you have to bring Gardas or Praetors. If you didn't have to do that, 150 points in your list
yeah.
right there. And that's
Easily.
That's like another battle mage for Foz protection. That's
Mhm.
another squad of dudes you can throw in front to eat charges. Like I think it's just an efficiency thing.
Are you taking that?
I don't think
over?
they'll give him I don't think they'll ever give him a
But
5
they won't do it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You could
What
also
was
like
that, James?
on the
Are
other
you-
end, you could go like his healing ability or whatever, where he killed something that's like 2 wounds or less, like a unit, not a model, just a unit. You could give him the Maw Crusher thing, where his wounds increase instead of him healing
that would
1
be
wound.
way
That would go a
cooler.
long way.
Yeah.
That'd be way more thematic.
Even with
Sorry,
a 5 up,
James?
even if with a 5 up board, costed where he is, would you, if you were given the option between this and an Incarnate, would you take Karazai over the Incarnate?
I'd take him.
Yeah,
He-
at a 5 board, yeah.
Yeah.
I would.
You know,
But if I would, I'd pick
he can issue holy commands. He's got that going for him. Some of our heroes can't.
He's a decent amount of damage. Like once he gets to
Oh,
do
he's
his
a good
damage,
beat stick.
And if
He's
he's
a
not
really, really good
bracketed,
beat stick.
yeah,
He just
he's actually
dies
really good,
unless you dedicate your entire list to protecting him. He just dies too quickly.
and he
and
takes
when-
buffs.
Yeah,
well.
and he's a fine mod. Like if you're
Yeah.
like we say he's fine for casual games. If you play him competitively and you dedicate a list around him, going 3-2-4-1 is not like impossible. You'll have a fun time.
It's not, no.
for sure.
No.
He's not bad. He's just not. He's just not great.
And
He's
every
just not
single
great.
person will shake your hand and be like, "Thank you for not being a typical Stormcast list."
Oh, yeah.
You will get
Yes,
make a
he's
lot
good,
of friends.
I just want to make this clear to those
Yes.
watching. This is not a complaint. He's a good
Mhm.
model. You will have fun playing him. He's great. 4-1 is
Yeah.
very much possible with him. I actually know of someone. I can't remember his name, but I follow him on Twitter.
Didn't Joel McGrath get 5-0?
Yes, Joel McGrath.
Joel,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. Oh,
Joel's
oof.
bomb.
Joel is on the same Karazai train, and this man, he gets like 4-1s, and like he
Yeah.
does really well with those armies.
I don't know.
He's
if
not
Basil's
bad.
got
He's a
4-1.
good model. He's just not great compared to
yeah.
like some of the other more efficient stuff we're doing.
He's just not efficient. That's the problem, right? And
Yeah.
Stormcast are an army that is already inefficient. Like we scramble for as much efficiency as possible, and that's why the Vanquisher change is such a big deal for us. But yeah, he's just inefficient. You dedicate your whole list to him, and then you tactically. You're
I would say
winning.
the only complaint I have about his model is I don't think he should be the same cost as Krondis. Krondis belongs
Yeah,
at
he shouldn't be
550.
the same
This
cost.
guy, for being not a wizard or nothing, just maybe like 40 points lower.
Yeah.
Just-
Also, they should have the spell ignore. Just saying.
yeah, 4-up spell
Yeah,
ignore,
like if
5
their
up
sons
forward,
have it, why don't
fixed.
they have it? Yeah,
That would
They're like,
fix them.
why
why?
don't they have it? I don't know.
Like Master of War is cool, but spell
Honestly,
ignore.
actually,
that's
Paul,
so
I would say if he had a spell ignore, I would not give him the ward save. I would give him one of the two. Not
Yeah, because then it would make sense. You could negate just
Yeah.
a lot of mortal wounds, and
because
that would be
most of the mortal
awesome.
wounds come from spells. If he just had like a 5-up or 4-up spell ignore, it'd probably be good.
Nah, give him
Yeah,
both.
like sure, raptors are killing him, but then there's like it's okay to have weaknesses, you know.
I don't need to compromise. Give him both. I don't
All
care.
right.
He's 550 points. He should feel like he's 550 points. You
I
know?
want my
Like,
armor of contempt. Fine, let's go.
Yeah, let's
Move
go.
on. Moving on.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Krondis. Still A tier. The point change
Right.
has been nice. Kind of offset by the
Helps us
changes to
account
cogs.
helps us account for the cogs. Yeah.
If you're using
Yes, the
cogs with him,
cogs.
maybe we swap it out and we use a different spell with him now. Krondcast and Krondis list in general, like he's so impactful. You have to build a list around him and his abilities.
Yeah,
and those
I like the
lists,
Krondis
those lists aren't going to suddenly start using Vigilors to have cheaper shooting. They're still going to want crossbows and Tempestors. So it's pretty much unchanged. He's just as good or as bad, depending on how you view it. Like he's not the best
Purple
unit,
Sun
not
nerf
the best
went a
list.
long way.
Yeah, and this kind of offsets it, right? If you look at 20 points for Purple Sun and 30 points for Cogs and then 50 points for Krondis,
Oh, I meant
it's exactly the same as who we're about.
I meant
before.
him getting bopped randomly.
Oh yeah, he doesn't
Yeah,
just get nuked
that was the
anymore.
big thing. Like Mergong, maybe we take him to Everwinter. We both go.
I'm painting mine up right now. I might.
Maybe
I
we
legit-
do that.
We
Maybe
talked
do the
about this. We're
challenge.
like, if Purple Sun
Yeah.
gets nerfed and gets out of the meta, I'll play Krondis. I am going to play Krondis now.
Yeah.
All right.
So, yeah.
I've had a year on Ileana Grande. I'm ready.
You know what? Krondis, 600 points, 4-up spell ignore, 5-up board. Karazai, same thing, 50 points.
Oh,
less.
easily. Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
I put him back to 600
Yeah.
for sure.
But those models need to
not-
just have more defenses because you have to spend too much of your points giving them defenses. And that's not very fun. Like you want a big dragon, you don't want to have to bring 6 heroes to make the big dragon cool. Doesn't feel
Yeah.
right. So that's the Stormcast tier list. I think those are the only units that need updating right now. Do you guys think there's any that we missed as a result of the changes? I'm just going to scroll back here to all the point changes right at the start. Bam. So we got Vanquishers, Aventus, Relictor, Andrasta, Karazai, Krondis, Annihilators, Praetors, Vigilors.
That's all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say
far as we go.
Sacrosanct changes is what we needed, and we needed some Vanguard changes. More specifically, maybe make Hurricane Crossbows playable at 190, 180.
Ooh.
Make
that'd be-
Paladors
They need,
playable
like, a
if they went
rules
down 20
update.
points. Paladors would be playable if they were 190.
Maybe. With Bounty Hunters, maybe. Without it, I'm not sure.
No,
Yeah,
no,
without Bounty
Paladors.
Hunters.
The mounted guys.
Yeah, Paladins.
even
without
then.
Bounty Hunters.
Still with bounty hunters. Yeah.
Oh, without bounty hunter. I mean, they're still fine. -1 rend, D3 damage, 190, sure.
I just
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't like -1 rend anymore.
It's like sometimes I find 30 points when I'm taking a chariot, and I will. It's a thing you don't need to do translocate on. It sort of translocates itself, which I like.
Yeah, kind of.
Rather have a chariot and 25 points.
Yeah, for the triumph for my crossbows.
Chariots are just so good,
Yeah.
man. I'm gonna make a strong case for them
Right.
being S tier next time we do a tier list because they're so
Yeah,
good.
I'm starting to feel them being S tier.
Try a list with
100%.
4.
Yeah.
Like just Watchtower was right.
I think
Try a list
yeah.
with
If
4
you're a
chariots.
Stormcast player in the chat, not
Watchtower
we're not
was right, you heard it
shilling
here
GW
first.
stock, but yeah, like not to shield GW stock, but everyone, all Stormcast players, I think should have at least 2 chariots, maybe 3.
They're
I ordered my
phenomenal.
second one today.
I've been playing 4. I tried 3 in a game with James and it went. I liked it, and I tried 4, and 4 is even better. They just keep getting better. Chariots with Gardas is so good. It's gross.
Might build that list actually.
Do it. It's fun, man. Take that instead of Krondus. You'll have more fun. Your opponents
Rondus
would
with
not.
chariots? Poor opponents would not have fun with that. Yeah.
Take Rondus.
Yeah, you know what? Get Krondus nerfed. Do it, Mergonk. You couldn't get Grandhammer nerfed.
I was
Well,
joking
no,
with
so it's
Daniel.
gonna be-
I was joking
Dude,
with
we
Daniel
should've
because
just
we
not
played
played it.
Annihilators so much. We shouldn't have played Grandhammers.
We
They would have
shouldn't have
gotten like
done
a 20-point cut by now.
Yeah. Next tier list, everything
You
F tier.
guys-
Buffs, please.
Yeah. I'm gonna laugh when both of you guys pivot off of Grandhammers and then they get nerfed.
Oh my god, I hope not. I hope not.
That
Actually,
unit
they're
is-
fine. Because like if you look at the use percentage, Vindictors have a 80% use rate, but Annihilators only 2%. Which I don't know how that. I guess that's newer players talking, but
It's got to be
Yeah.
Dominion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's just that's got to be Dominion talking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we think the top factions are coming out of this? Has Seraphon been nerfed enough that it's not going to be top dog anymore?
I don't think it'll
I
be
won't.
S tier.
no, I know.
We
It'll-
have
like
the
we
cart.
said, the win rate will drop from like 60% to 55.
Yeah.
I mean, they're still a very powerful army. So
Mhm.
Do you want
Yeah.
to bring out the chart, Paul?
Which the radar chart? I don't have it.
No,
prepared.
the tier list chart.
Oh, I don't have it prepared. I'd have to find it
Okay.
somewhere.
Gotcha.
Give me a minute.
Well, while
here.
we
Maybe
have
I
that,
can-
I mean, we could always take some questions from chat. Anything you guys have going on? I do see our poll got up to 84 votes. Nice. Still Liberator saying A tier. I agree that I think C tier might be a little bit too much of a downgrade, but I agree this season it's a little rough. It's mostly the season, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's just I put them at C for where they're at right now.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Scrolling all the way through our last live stream. No, we didn't do it this time, did we? This is a high quality stream here. We did it in Realm Report. That's when we last talked about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, boom. So this wasn't updated after our last discussion, but it's got all the factions on here, so we can kind of go through and talk about these one at a time, I guess. So yeah, we had Nurgle and Seraphon in S tier. Do we still think they're going to be S tier?
I think it takes the edge
Nurgle's
off.
A, I think.
Yeah.
Nurgle's A.
I think Nurgle
I
loses
think once
the...
once the LRL players figure out what Helon does and what in charges, I think Nurgle
Yeah.
drops down to 2.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be S because Kronspine Nurse I think really
Yeah.
hurts.
Kronspine
I think
Nurse
A
is really-
they can't drop below A. They're a solid book.
Do
I think.
Nurgle and Seraphon, I think they really get hurt by Total Eclipse, right? Like Seraphon in particular, the Skink Priest spending 2 command points to use its Hero Phase command, and then 2 command points to double tap, and then 2 command points to all out attack to get past the +1 hit. There's not enough command points in the world for that combo, right? So
I mean,
Seraphon
yeah.
is going to really
Yeah,
struggle with
and
Lumineth.
Lumineth have
I
a lot
just-
of mortal wounds. Yeah.
I just don't see Lumineth being super duper popular. Like, I don't see them popping off the way Nighthaunt did after their new book, where they literally are the second most played faction.
Maybe
Oh, that's
next
because Soul
season,
Wars, right?
right? Bounty Hunters
Yeah,
is
Soul
really
Wars.
keeping Lumineth down in this season. For a couple more months, you're not going to see
Maybe.
too many Lumineth 5-0.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
But
you could say the same for Nighthaunt, but Nighthaunt I think is more popular because it's far easier to collect them because they were part of that Mortal Realms magazine. They were
Wars,
part of
yeah.
Soul Wars. People just have tons of that floating around. So-
Yeah,
Okay, so Nurgle and Seraphon, we're thinking this is enough to
think
bring
they
them
go
down
down-
to A tier.
yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah,
I think it
Nurgle,
takes the edge off.
yeah, yeah.
Because they didn't seem to be S tier, like head and shoulders S tier, you know?
hmm It was.
I
It was
don't think they're-
borderline. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
how about-
don't.
Go ahead.
I don't think Seraphon is going to drop. I think Seraphon will probably stay up there.
Okay.
I just don't think it will
Conser-
I mean, all of Seraphon's good matchups are still their good matchups. Like
Yep.
when I try to think of like whose matchup into Seraphon got better, and the
I'm
answer is
telling you,
probably Stormcast.
the
Probably
Lumineth matchup's
Stormcast
really
matchup.
bad for Seraphon. Mortal Wound just
Yeah.
punch right through Bastillodons. They don't care.
You'll be at a
ignore-
-2 to hit if you take Avalanor. So.
Yeah, it's rough, man. That's
Yeah.
a rough matchup for them, and it's not so popular that it's gonna like, obliterate them or anything, but it's gonna drop them a few points. Anytime Seraphon matches to Lumineth, it's unfavored for them. Yeah.
Okay.
Dragon Ogre spam. Has this been enough to nerf Dragon Ogres? Because I think when we
Not
were
enough.
talking about this, we were
No.
like, they're S tier, but they don't have the numbers yet, like result wise. In terms of
Right.
power, it was an S tier list, right? It was so hard to play against.
Well, if you
I
see
think-
them, they're not spamming Dragon Ogres just now. What they're doing is they're taking a critical mass of them, which is about 12 to 15, and then they also take the new Tzeentch unit, the Zangor Enlighten on discs. The ones that have, like, they shut off all commands within 3,
Skyfires.
so you can never unleash a roar into them. Sorry, all out defense into them.
To be fair, I think if you have 5 squads of a unit, that counts as spam, right?
It's, 2.5 squads, but yeah, sure.
But
Sure,
like
why not?
unit wise, right? Like you count it
That's
5
5
times.
Yeah.
units, sure.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, plus also the problem with the BOC in general was their summoning and the 4-up rally. Like, people don't realize how powerful a 4-up rally is. Like, people are like, oh, just get into melee, it'll never happen. What you don't realize is late game,
No.
when a lot of things are dead and you can bring back a whole unit with a single command point,
It
it's
hurts.
really, really impactful.
It do hurt.
I've had games against. I had a game against Gavin Grigor where like we were on that mission that gives Galatian veterans a 4-up rally, and he took like 2 turns to kill my Annihilators, and I kept rallying them back. It's just like, and my Raptors too. I kept rallying them back on like a 5-up. So it's like, it's really powerful on like a critical mass of wound density. So I don't know. It's the 4-up rally. I think 4-up rallies should not exist in the game. Period. Like, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I don't think rally should ever be beyond a 5-up. It's just such a swingy mechanic.
Rally
on a
needs
big
to be
wall.
I
changed.
think rally shouldn't work on 4+ wound units, honestly.
Rally, and I've talked about this before, I'm sure, it should be changed to heal, like revive wounds worth of models instead, like D6 worth of wounds, rather than, 6 up for every model that died. That way you just can't revive Storm Drakes, and you don't revive like
Storm
15
Drakes.
skeletons a turn.
Oh,
with a
God, yeah.
times, right?
Yeah.
So
Like Varanguard.
Reviving, oh my god, reviving Storm Drakes in a 5-up. I think that mission is won't back down. I think I saw
Yeah.
someone do it. It was
Won't
disgusting.
back
pretty
down.
stupid.
Yeah.
So what else significantly changed? Cruel Boys. Where would we think Cruel Boys? Like, I'm willing to give them a shot at B, just because their rule changes seem so impactful. Is that too conservative or too risky? What do you guys think?
It's fair. I think right now they're still kind of low because bounty hunters will hurt them. Especially like if you're an army like Ironjaws, you don't care. You just kill them. But once the bounty hunter season is over, I think at least a B.
Okay. How about Gits?
I don't even.
Are Gits no longer F tier? I think that's where we landed them last time.
Gits are bad. I think their points drops doesn't really matter. They just need a new book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think I just think they're bad.
Hmm.
I mean, okay, like there's really some really good Gits players. There was like a Gits player in the Chicago Open who did really, really well. But I don't know. They just need a new book.
What else got buffed? Bone Reapers? Is this enough to make them B?
Nope. Nope.
Yeah, actually, no, I don't know about that, man. No, it might be. I've been seeing. I can make a list that has a lot of like different elements now with 2 units of 6 stalkers, and it feels good. Stalkers at 190 felt bad. At 165, they feel good. They feel really good.
330 for 2 of them. They're
And they-
Chariot. Same cost as Chariot, right?
Yeah. Like, yeah, they're not revivable like everything else, like Mortek Guard or whatever. But Mortek Guard took a big hit after Hunters of the Heartland went away. So
What's the next big tournament event where we can do another realm report, see the results of these changes?
probably the boys.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit just because we want to let these changes settle in before we do like a realm
Yeah.
report. Because it won't be that relevant if I do it like next week.
No,
Yeah.
totally. We're gonna
Oh,
wait a
there's
bit.
the boys. Then there's
When is the boys?
Everwinter GT
s-
is the other one.
no, there's one more in Minnesota. I think Joe Creer told me about
Isn't
it. I
there
can't
one
remember.
more GW open?
No, there's the final of all the winners in New Mexico next month. Oh, this month. Well, is it November yet? It is.
It is
Yeah,
November.
it's November.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
Okay,
it's
so we'll-
There'll be some things to look at.
We'll probably do a realm
Yeah.
report at the end of this month.
Towards
We
the
can
end of
probably time it
November,
with the Lord Commander's painting contest. Do both at the same
Mhm.
time, and we can take a look at an updating. I'll go back and I'll watch our live stream and I'll update this, and we can use that as a starting point for the, based on the changes, we can see where every faction landed. So that'll be
Mhm.
interesting.
We have to
too.
do a review for this. So we have to do a review for the Army Slaves of Darkness because their entire tome is basically coming out next week.
Yeah.
But
Next,
just this not. I'm not trying to start a discussion, but just if your ranking would have to be, what would you give this army?
slaves.
Slaves?
Slaves of Darkness, yes.
They're looking pretty A tier, honestly. They're looking like they have a lot of good tools.
They feel like Ideneth all over again, where they have a lot of stuff that seems really good, but then like Ideneth, I think it's going to be their shortcomings are going to become apparent. They're not as exploitable, these shortcomings, as Ideneth are, but stuff like they're a pure melee army, man. That's already a red flag, right? Like unless you're Ironjaw's level of speed and offense, you're going to struggle as an all melee army, or like all defense, like Nurgle, right? Like pure melee armies are tough to make work, and I don't know if Slaves has like they don't. Do they double
I don't
fight?
think they're a slow army. I think
They're
I
not
disagree
slow.
with you that they're a slow army.
I didn't say they were slow. Like I think you can make a
Yeah.
couple units really fast. I don't think it's enough to overwhelm an opponent and pin them in their territory like Nurgle does, or just kill everything like Ironjaws does, right? So I don't think they do either of these things. They're right in the middle of both of those armies. So I don't know if that's enough. So I don't think they're like S. I want to put them A if I had to give them a ranking. Like they're good and they're good at what they do.
I think them having better defenses than others, and perhaps this again, I'll reiterate, 4-up rally on Chaos Knights.
The problem with this army is that if you want speed, you give up durability, and that's a rough choice to make, right? Like you take either
Yeah.
Nurgle or Tzeentch, or you take Slanesh marks, right? And you give up one crucial thing in order to get another. And like for a pure melee army, you have to be either really fast or really
Why?
durable. Because if you have the
No,
Slanesh
no,
mark,
hold
you
on.
don't have the Nurgle mark, right? The -1 to wound.
No,
is
no, you
huge.
just take you take Demonic Speed, Khorne Mark, and you take because again, like I said, Chaos has the most amazing coalition rules ever. You go to the what's that tome called? Blades of Khorne, and you get in a Bloodstoker. So now Bloodstoker, Demonic Speed on a Mark of Khorne Knights. That's a Knight moving 10, minimum charge 5, 3d6 charge, plus 3 to run and charge because of the Bloodstoker, which is just an applied ability. Hitting on 2s with the command point, rerolling all wound rolls.
Yeah, I hadn't considered the coalition in there. I hadn't
You
looked
have
at
to.
broader. I know you have to. I've got time. I don't have time, man. Come on.
All right, well, we do the review. We'll talk
We
about
will.
it, but I think
Yeah,
at
we
least
will.
Yeah.
I think
But
yeah.
It's
How-
gonna be rough.
a lot of that review is going to has to be edited after Khorne gets a new book, Slanesh gets a new book, right? Like a lot of these have to change.
Yeah.
Which is tough.
I mean,
It's a
we
tough
have to
review.
evaluate it as it is now, since we don't know when Khorne will get a new book. I mean, the rumor is kind of like summer next year, but
Yeah.
until then,
Well,
they will have access to the Blood Secretor and Stoker.
I'm
so.
not even that scared of Chaos Knights, honestly. Their damage is like, okay, they kill a screen, right? Sure. What I'm scared about is the new Ogroids. Those things do ridiculous damage.
They're not slow either. They're like 8-inch moving.
You could,
infantry, I think.
I mean, if you can Bloodstoker them, right? No, they're not mortal, are they?
No, they're not Chaos. They're Destruction. Oh, right, Theradons, you mean?
Yeah, the new guys.
Yeah.
The Grand Hammers,
Yeah.
basically. But
You could
they hit
Bloodstoker
harder.
with Mark of Khorne. Are they mortal though?
I don't
know
think
if they have
so.
the
I don't think they're
key.
mortal.
Yeah.
I'd have to double check that. But yeah, if I had to guess,
but
I'd
it
say A
just says
tier.
Khorne in it.
I would have, if I had to
It's-
guess, I'd say A tier. It seems like their hardest, the really like fast units aren't also their super killy units. Like Chaos Knights do good damage, but like, can Chaos Knights kill a Gargant in one
Oh my
turn?
god. Bloodstoker is 80 points. Oh my god.
Yeah. 4+ rally is really good, but there's a lot of restrictions on rallying in combat, right? Like rally is really good against shooting armies. That's nice. But what if like you're
Yeah, the
forced
rally, that's what it's for.
you're
Yeah,
forced to go
it's like
first and then
Artorias
just
says.
get
4-up
engaged?
rally is really impactful. And Coalition, like Bloodstoker and Blood Secretor specifically.
Mm-hmm.
It could
+1
be.
attack, so Chaos Knights can go up to 4 attacks each, and +3 to run and charge. Don't underestimate that. Gabriel Shorehart was good.
Yeah. Jeez.
3d6 charge with +3. That's like
They still just
On
move
average,
10
it's
inches,
charging
though,
Missed
right?
that.
15 inches.
They still move 10 inches, though, right? They can't run and charge? Or does Demonic Speed let you
You
run
can't
and
run
charge?
and charge. No. Demonic Speed gives you a 3d6.
Okay. So yeah, 3d6 is what makes that good.
But like 10 inch, 15 inch, 25 inch threat range is really good for a bunch of dudes who are on effectively 3-up save, 5-up ward against mortals. Like, would I play Fulminators with that profile? Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Or would I play Concussors at that profile? Let's imagine Fulminators don't have that. I would play Concussors if they had that.
Mhm.
Well, because you think about it, right? If you can move them to 9 inches, you deny the redeploy, and then a 3d6 inch charge with a bonus. Jesus.
But if you,
You'll never miss that
but
charge.
would you play Fulminator's
I
set
could make
profile
that charge.
and an army that has no shooting and no deep strength?
Why not?
Because all
If
you do
you're
is kill
gonna-
Do you
screens.
think? Do you think?
I'm
Do you
saying,
think
like-
that it's also balanced by the fact that they have like just chaff, like 80-point Marauder chaff that they can put towards objectives or Furies and things like
Centaurs.
that?
Yeah,
They can
because like
do
Chaos Warriors
cavalry
are
based
Okay,
bad,
okay, no,
right?
I guess a better question is if concussors could do all that, like imagine fulminators don't exist. If like concussors could do all that and add a 4-up rally, would shooting matter? Plus, remember that you can give them a 4-up ward against shooting because of that. Instead of
Yes,
holy commands, they get
I-
holy banners.
I think it would matter because the problem with melee units is when you're fighting other melee armies, you can't rally because you're in combat. And when you're playing against shooting, you really want to shoot the shooting. Otherwise, you're just fighting screens. So you're just wasting turns fighting useless stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like not having access
I
to
think I
shooting
do
is a big
think
deal.
I
It's a
do
really
think
big deal.
they're good. I don't think they're insane. I think people will figure them out. I just think some people, not all, some people will find that 4-up rally really, really stupid.
Oh,
to go
it's.
up against.
I mean, look at it in Daughters of Cain. 4-up rally on shooting units is really good. It counters other shooting units if you can survive it, right?
Paul,
It's going to be good.
Carl brought something up earlier that was kind of neat as far as rallying something when you're stuck in combat. They have the Mark of Tzeentch teleport. Have you read it?
Rally's at the start of the hero phase, right?
Oh, it is. Never mind. Yeah.
So that won't work.
No, so it'll work out.
Hmm.
But they do have a teleport and move.
They do have the
Unlike
teleport
us.
and move, which is a little disgusting. But it is teleport to the wizard.
Yeah,
It's
but
a
it's anywhere on the
invisibility.
field, so it's like.
But they don't have bodyguards, so
Yeah,
we just kill the
methods.
wizards, right? That's like.
That
fine.
is fair.
Yeah.
I don't
that is
I
fine.
don't think it's going to be like it's really easy to compare it to every other cavalry in the game. But then you have to remember this army
Yeah,
has
yeah.
0 range power projection, no reserves.
Yeah.
Like everything
No, I
they
think
do is
I think
telegraphed.
that is how I'm. Yeah, that is how I'm tempering my salt. I would say.
That's
Yeah.
all I'm trying to do as well. Like
but-
if they're
yeah.
broken, I'll eat
I don't
I'll eat
think it's
crow here,
broken.
but
Yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think it's
I don't think
broken,
they're
for sure.
busted broken. I think they'll be like a.
I think they'll be
It's
good.
like you
I
know
think
what a
they're
mid-table
good.
bully, like a gargant, like a 3-up armor mid-table bully that just like hurts a lot of armies. It just hurts
like
to go up against them.
like Iron Jaws a year ago, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to
It's
be.
like, yeah.
They're the new Iron Jaws. I think
The
they're
thing
going
is,
to be
like,
fine.
Coalition actually makes them so much better. Iron Jaws, like,
Yeah,
you know what they're
Coalition
going to
is-
do. You never know what a Slaves to Darkness army will do because their War Scroll roster is, well, not as big as ours, but very comparable to ours, like the diversity. And their Coalition rules are just way better because, unlike us, we don't get to apply any of our rules to Sidious or Sigmar. They get to do that, you know, across their Coalition.
I have to assume they're going to change that. Because a lot of the
No.
stuff is like in the Maggotkin of Nurgle book. Does that stuff just require Nurgle Mortal or Maggotkin of Nurgle keyword? Because Slaves to Darkness
A lot
can't
of stuff
gain-
does say, Nurgle Mortal,
Maggotkin and
Nurgle
Nurgle.
Demon.
Mm.
Yeah, Nurgle. Yeah, a lot of stuff does say Nurgle. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's why, like, if you look at the Bloodstoker, it doesn't say Blade of Corn. Unit.
Yeah, but
It
it's a
says
second
Khorne
edition
unit.
model. That's why I'm asking, right? It's because like
Yeah,
it-
I
they-
think-
when they
no,
update the
you're not
Khorne
wrong.
book, it could be Blades of Khorne rather than Khorne Mortal. So you can't assume that combo is
Mhm.
going to be around forever.
Mm-hmm.
But the book's probably already written, and who knows? If that's the case,
Yeah.
like this book's going to be wild with possibilities, which is good. That's what you want from every army: is tons of options, good internal balance. That's the most important thing in an army. Like even if your army sucks and is weak, as long as you get to play lots of stuff, that's way more important than winning every game.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the worst was second edition Stormcast, where there was one list that was playable. Really, just wasn't that fun. It was, you won a lot of games with it, but it wasn't fun to play or play against. So what can you do with that? All right. Do we have any questions in chat we can go over?
Oh,
I think we're talking a lot of S2D. There's just so much.
yeah.
that,
Everyone's. I guess everyone. I'm excited for them. The model range looks
Yeah.
beautiful. Basically, like corrupted Stormcast. So, like Chosen just straight up look like Grandhammer Annihilators who have corrupted the Stormcast, which I know is impossible because Stormcast can't get corrupted in the lore. But yeah.
Mhm.
Do you guys think Granny Smith are D tier apples? I don't know about that, man. Granny Smith is pretty good.
Especially for baking. I don't know if you all bake. Like, I bake apple pies with that all the time.
Thanks, Chris. Chris is another one of our sponsors from Kaiju. Great guy.
Yeah. Gala apples A tier. I don't think so, man. Not since the last Battlescroll. There's just no way. No way. The apple pie meta has shifted too much since then. All right.
Right.
Well, we're coming up to 11. We can call it a night here. This has been a very good review of the Battlescroll.
Yeah.
it's been fun chatting with you guys, and I will hopefully see you guys soon.
Yeah, man. Thank you
Let's
guys
Next
for tuning in.
time.
let's do algorithm plugs and whatnot. Jack,
Oh,
go.
yeah. Let's do some
That
plugs.
is-
Wait, first one for our sponsor, in Kaiju. I just wanted to plug in that, you can check out their website. Carl just confirmed with me that all of the Stormcast stuff did go up on the website, so if you want to go out there and get some chariots or some vanquishers, very recommended. We'll try to get some reviews on there from us on each of the things offered as well for Stormcast at least. And definitely check out all the different things from Kaiju. Like I said, custom measurement tools, even the measurement tools they have, the ones that we have, we're actively working on the design even right now. It's coming across really cool. I'm excited for it. It's something that you can pre-order right now on there, but I don't have an ETA yet for when they're coming out. Soon, TM. So definitely check that out. Really neat. Big thanks to Carl and Chris. They're both in the chat, talking us up and talking apples. So big thank you to you guys. Please support them because they're bomb. They really deserve it. Then Jack, do your thing.
Before we close off tonight, always remember that these are just our opinions. So if you disagree or have a different outlook, please post that in the comments below. We will look at those, and we appreciate everyone's feedback. This is a YouTube channel, so like, subscribe, thumbs up, that kind of stuff. We really appreciate it. And Paul, I give it over to you.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. If you think we missed something in the battle scroll that is like totally obvious that we're totally sleeping on, let us know in the comments. I love arguing with you guys in the comments. It's a good time. Coming up
Join our
next,
Discord.
join our Discord, man. Lots of great conversations on there all the time. If you love arguing about rules or making silly lists with 9 chariots or anything in between there, feel free to jump in there. And coming up next, I guess we can say what we're working on right now behind the scenes. We are finishing up the Lumineth review. It's taken a little bit longer than we thought because we had to take a few different angles depending on what the errata may or may not have been on tech lists and other units. And after that, we think we're going to do that radar chart thing, like current state of every army, talk about where they're all at, and I think that would be a pretty nice evergreen tool to use for a while. So people coming into the game could be like, oh, how does this army play? What do they focus on? And I think we can use those as a good guide for that sort of thing. And that's what we got cooking behind the scenes in the immediate future. If you have any suggestions for videos, let us know. We're looking for more feedback about that sort of thing. And I guess thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
Yeah, guys.
Bye.